We go.
Deck the Halas Hall Hangover. The Bears try to tame the Lions. Didn't go so well. Ben Johnson's intrigued. And Caleb's chasing history. Check it out next. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to a very special Merry Christmas edition of the Halas Hall Hangover. We are 4-star Chicago sports. I got the twins in the house. Unfortunately, we're missing Dustin today. He's down and out with a little bit of a sickness. We'll miss you, buddy. Merry Christmas to you and the family, and we'll see you back on the show next week. How we doing, Brandon? How we doing, Kyle?
Feeling all right, man. How about you?
Doing good.
Well, fresh off what we have, another drubbing at the hands of another division opponent in the Detroit Lions. The Chicago Bears got worked over on the lakefront. They now, Brian Poles, under Poles' leadership, they now fall to 2-15 against the NFC opponents. And it's gone from bad to worse as Eric Washington continues to look overmatched. He's now been blown out in 3 straight weeks. This defense was headed in the wrong direction. It hasn't fallen off a cliff. It's become a complete and utter disaster and crumbled under his tutelage. Caleb now, as we switch to a little bit of the bright side, Caleb now sits 6th among passing yards in the season in team history. Not all that bad in his rookie season under his second head coach, his third OC, and not bad for an audition for Ben Johnson. As in 2 games against Detroit this year, Caleb had 681 yards total, 590 passing, 5 touchdowns, 0 turnovers, 73 yards on the ground. He also dominated the NFC North, but obviously the wins haven't come yet, boys. But that's more around the team than it is around Caleb. Caleb was also our leading rusher this weekend at 34 yards. DeAndre Swift can only muster 20. Boys, talk to me. Kyle, Brandon, who wants to start it off? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, Sean, there's really not much to talk about. I mean, this is kind of all this is actually, in terms of our score predictions, this might be the closest we've been all year. I think I said like 34-17 or 34-20. So pretty much exactly what we expected. I did like the fact that Caleb Williams once again started to look like a very good quarterback. He had probably one of his best games in the NFL through his young career. And it seems like this defense is just kind of giving up on the team. It seems like they're kind of like DJ Moore said, kind of ready for vacation, ready for the offseason. That's pretty much what we're seeing when we watch this team on the field. They look like they're kind of checked out. I don't think Thomas Brown's a very inspiring interim head coach, because we've seen coaches in the past who come in and fill in after a team decides to let go of their head coach, and teams kind of respond and play hard for him. We're not seeing that with the Chicago Bears. This team is a disaster. You know, as much as I love Roma Dunze, after the 2 fumbles he had in the first half, that game was pretty much over after that.
Yeah, turnovers and penalties. I mean, things that the Bears really weren't known for doing as bad as they were prior to Thomas Brown being the head coach of this football team. And Caleb's still not throwing picks, but we're managing to turn the ball over because now players are just, not catching the passes thrown to them or catching them and dropping them, guys. And then 10 penalties. I mean, you finally eliminate the sacks. 2 sacks on Caleb. Not all that bad. So not a whole lot of negative yards there, but 10 penalties.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a Thomas Brown thing, and it's been occurring all year, and it didn't get better. And that's not a testament to his resume. So
No, you know,
it's all bad. The defense is going to continue to be what it is, and the Bears likely aren't going to score enough points because they're still ugly in the first half, guys. Likely not going to score enough points to beat either of the teams they have remaining on their schedule.
Oh, yeah.
But at this juncture, guys, I think that's the most we can hope for is Caleb plays well and they lose anyways.
Well, you know, what sucks is, you know, you expect to see the penalties go up a little bit on the road because of the crowd noise, and obviously you're anxious and the whole stadium's against you. But man, at home to have 10 penalties and half of them are pre-snap penalties, and then like you said, Vernon, I mean, this team had turned the ball over 11 times going into that game, one of the best in the NFL. And then they fumble on their first 3 drives of the game. It's just ridiculous. And it seems like every time the Bears start, it seems like in the NFL, once teams start to have reoccurring positive plays, sustained success, they start to build off that in all 3 phases, right? The Bears can just never get all 3 phases on the same page. Like, the defense will keep Detroit out of the end zone twice, and we're like, all right, looks like we're going to play well in this game. And then Roman Dunze gives the ball right back at the 20-yard line, and you're like, all right, they're definitely scoring now. They're definitely scoring this one. You just can't continue to have the Bears aren't a good enough team. If the Bears want to compete with teams like Detroit and Green Bay and Philadelphia and Buffalo, they would have to play almost a perfect game because the roster is not as good as the teams we're talking about. And the Bears are far from playing a perfect game. They hurt themselves more than any other team you watch in the NFL. I mean, it's just constant. It's almost a guarantee. It's not if, it's when.
To Brandon's point about getting up in the first quarter and Trey asking why the offense takes so long to score, to get going, on the Bears opening drives this year, week 1, it was a punt, week 2 field goal, week 3 missed field goal, weeks 4 through 10 punt, week 11 field goal, week 12 punt, week 13 punt, week 14 punt, week 15 turnover on downs. And we all saw what happened this week. It was a punt. So I don't understand. I've been trying to figure it out all year, boys. Maybe you guys can help me. I got the twin powers of knowledge here. Maybe you guys can help me figure it out a little bit. How come this offense is starting off so gosh darn slow? Because it's just atrocious. It seems like once the midway through the second quarter and in the third quarter, they remember how to play football, but the first quarter is just dead. Somebody help me out here.
Well, what's funny is people talk about this all the time. Like, the Bears offense is so slow to start games. It's so slow to start games. The Bears have been like this for our entire lives, guys. I mean, with the exception of when they had Devin Hester here, who could score touchdowns on the opening kickoff. Besides that, the Bears have always been a slow starting team. And Sean, what that means to me is you're not doing well in your preparation. You're just not prepared. They're not. I mean, the first 15 plays of the game should be scripted. And there's scripted plays that they think take advantages of the deficiencies of the defense that you're playing, the opponent you're playing. The Bears are obviously not doing a good job scripting those 15 plays. They're not using the right 15 plays, which means they're either not doing enough homework on their opponent, or they are doing the homework and they're just getting it wrong. Either way, it's not good. It's incompetence is what it is.
I think they're scheming a lot of run early and often, and I don't think any of the coaches who have been coaches on this offensive staff of this Bears team over this season know how to scheme run, guys. It's so apparent to me that DeAndre Swift is an edge player. He should be on the edge. He should be on the outside. He doesn't run up the tackles well, or run between the tackles well. And they always start the game handing the ball off to Swift and sending him right up the gut. And then they abandon it for a long time. And then they try like a gimmick play here or there, and it works. And they're like, oh, Swift can do things, But I think they're trying to dedicate themselves to their run, but not utilizing their personnel in the proper way has a lot to do with their failures early in games. Because they just want to come out gunslinging. If they're going to fail at the run, I mean, Swift had 9 attempts, guys. So if you're going to fall in your face like that, don't give them 5 attempts on the first drive and then 4 for the rest of the game. You know what I mean? Just come out slinging, come out gunslinging. If that's the way you want to play, it's not working.
Well, Brandon, goes back to the Bears don't have an identity. That's the problem. They don't have an identity. They don't have. There's nothing that they do particularly well. They do some things good. They do some things not so well, but they don't do anything great. And every other team in the NFL, or at least the successful teams in the NFL, have identities. Like you guys know, when you play the Lions, those Jahmyr Gibbs and Dave Montgomery are going to run the ball down your throat. When you play teams like the Steelers, they're going to hit you hard and they're going to go after the quarterback constantly. Well, the Bears don't have anything. There's nothing to hang your head.
Guys would say a team with Saquon Barkley or a team with Jahmyr Gibbs knows they have a talented player that should have the ball in his hands more often than not. The Bears can't wrap their head around these personnel. I mean, DeAndre Swift has shown the Bears that he's probably the most capable player on this roster of breaking a big play open. Agreed. And he's given the ball 9 times. That is not a recipe for, and shame on thomasbrown for falling back into the same. Shane Waldron was fired because he couldn't figure this out. Shane Waldron took over this offense as an offensive coordinator. He got the ball out of Caleb's hands quickly, but he also involved DeAndre Swift every way he could. DeAndre Swift was catching the ball. He was getting like 15 carries in a game. So I think he even had a few more for the first two games that Brown ran the offense. The guy's 9 carries. Thomas Brown has now abandoned the things that worked for him.
Yep. Yeah.
So I don't know what it is, man. It's like Dustin said. There's a, I don't know what to call it. I'll say culture, but I want to say illness that corrupts the minds of coaches here, where they think too much and they do stupid things, and then they lose sight of the things that work. It's like it's a curse, man. No, but for real, Sean, you have to ask yourself: would all the coaches that came here and failed, were all those guys really bad coaches? All of them? Or does this organization do something where you
Real quick,
almost
guys.
they feel like they're in a corner and they make decisions that no coach would ever make?
Real quick, what's up, Breaking News, Bruce? What's up, Scott? What's up, Phil? And what's up, Trey? We appreciate you guys joining us, man. Keep on
Merry
commenting.
Christmas,
We'll try to answer you guys' questions as soon as we can. Yeah. Merry Christmas to all
everybody.
you
Um,
Yeah, Thomas Brown had something going. Caleb was improving. The offense looked at the best it had all season, I thought, when he took the job from Shane Waldron. Now he's the head coach and play caller. And DeAndre Swift gets 9 carries. It just doesn't make sense. And it's not like the throw dropping back 35 times is winning games either. All that's been doing prior to last week, prior to yesterday, is getting your quarterback killed. And
Yeah.
didn't it seem like Thomas Brown as an offensive coordinator had this figured out?
he
Caleb
really
was
did.
getting hit far less. When
Yep.
Caleb got sacked in the first few
Ball was
games that
zipping.
Thomas Brown was the play caller, he was holding the ball. He wasn't getting hit by a scheme. The ball was being schemed out of his hands in less than 2.5 seconds. And DeAndre Swift was carrying the ball a lot. And Thomas Brown, after becoming head coach, I don't know if one thing's connected to the other. I'd imagine it is. The responsibility he's got on his plate now has led him astray from what he was doing best. That's what I think. And
guys. Well, I mean, and if you want to,
ugly again.
if you
As good
wanna-
as Caleb's stats were, it was ugly, guys. The Bears were
It was.
never, ever, ever in that football game.
Nope.
Well, and if you want to run the ball, if you want to run RPOs, and if you want to run play action pass, you can't be down by 20 points. There's no team in the NFL that's like, oh, you know what? Let's commit to the run because they're probably going to continue to run the ball. They're going to when you're down by 20 points going into the second half, when teams know you're playing from behind. Not to mention, for the Bears in particular, with the exception of a few games here and there, it takes them a really long time to score. These are 10, 12 play drives that eat up half a quarter for them to score a touchdown. Like the drive you saw against San Francisco coming out of halftime, it took them almost 8 minutes to score that touchdown. So once you're down by that many points, they know you're going to pass the ball.
Well,
they know
and-
you're going to pay. And the Bears
and
feed
another
right
thing-
into it. And they feed
Another
right
thing
into
that I've noticed over the last few weeks, Thomas Brown, even early in his play calling tenure, he's really bad in the red zone. Like that was the one thing the
Yeah.
Bears were doing really well early in the season. When they got in the red zone, they almost always scored a touchdown. Now it's either a field goal or they back themselves out of field goal range and punt the ball. They're just not. And even last week, not yesterday, but last week, they got to the 1 yard line and a couple of penalties took them 15 yards away from the goal line. And Thomas Brown has not been efficient in red zone offense, I feel like, since he's been the play caller of the Bears.
And you want to know what's funny is I was talking to Kyle on the phone yesterday, and I had that parlay all set, and I was actually wrong. I took the Bears plus 11. I had the Bears plus 11. So I'm sitting there, and beginning of the fourth quarter, they had the ball on the Lions 22, and they came away with that punt. Torrey Taylor wound up punting it. You know, it was a quick pass to DJ Moore that ended up being a 1 yard loss. Then you got a false start after that.
It was 4th and 20, wasn't it?
Yep. And then Corin, fucking, he had the false start. So you're now at 3rd and 11. And then Caleb Williams was sacked for a 9 yard loss by a former Bear. And you're back out of the red zone, and you're now punting. I wound up losing the parlay, obviously, because the Bears didn't cover the 11. But it's like, Jesus, man, it's becoming frustrating. And the one question I want to ask you guys, because I'm hearing this a lot, and I was reading Twitter today, and in the last couple of weeks, And they're saying, and Caleb Williams, guys, and we wanted to get to this. The interception streak is becoming epic. The 5 longest streaks without an interception in NFL history are right here on the screen. Aaron Rodgers, Brady, Goff. I mean, these are great names. If you take off a couple, but and you have hold on, you have our guy here at where's he at? 326 and counting. Now, the question I have for you guys is, I'm hearing everyone say the Bears are being too conservative at the beginning of these football games. Let Caleb Williams get out, grip it and rip it. Forget about the INT streak. Do you guys feel, watching the Chicago Bears, that this coaching staff has shackles on him at the beginning of the game? They're scared of him turning it over, creating a deficit that they can't come back from, or whatever the case, whatever reason they're doing it. Do you feel like that's been a little bit of the problem here with Caleb and the slow starts for the Bears offense at the beginning of the year?
No.
No?
I think it's actually quite the. I think the Bears need to do a better job committing to the run. I think Caleb's throwing too much. As a matter of fact, I mean, as impressive as the streak is, and I'm not going to take anything away from Caleb Williams. He's been absolutely remarkable as a rookie quarterback. To be even on the list of names like that is absolutely amazing. But there's also been a lot of dropped interceptions for Caleb Williams. I mean, there was two against the Vikings in particular that were like the Harrison Smith one that he threw it right to him. You need to catch that pass. But I mean, either way, I'm sure the guys on those lists that you just showed, Sean, the guys we've mentioned, Tom Brady and Rodgers, they probably had some of the same luck as well when it came to those interception streaks.
Sure.
I think the Bears come out and the Bears think pass first. I think that's the problem with the Bears. Like Vernon said, if you want to get Caleb Williams in a more of a comfortable position, knowing with the deficiencies of your offensive line, knowing that your coaching staff isn't all that great, you should focus that you should try to run the ball and try to play defense. And then once you could start to tell that the linebackers are starting to press up a little bit and they're starting to commit to stopping the run, DeAndre Swift, or stopping those screen passes, slant passes, then you go and throw the ball over their head. The Bears are coming out and they're all over the place. Like I said, the Bears don't have an identity. They don't come out with like a specific game plan. They just come out and they're kind of all over the place. It's like they try one thing, it doesn't work, so then they go to something else and it doesn't work. How many times do we see teams that come out and they have 3 and outs, 3 runs, and it's a 3 and out, and they come out in the second drive and they run the ball again and it's successful? You have to stick to it. This is the NFL, guys. It's not college. You're not going to get 15 yards off every carry. You have to get to, especially with a guy like Vernon mentioned, the guy DeAndre Swift, who by far is the most dangerous playmaker on the Chicago Bears, and you just paid $28 million to. Like, that's the guy you should be using more than anybody else on the team right now.
And Thomas Brown he's publicly said twice, the playing quarterback is not being afraid to take risks. I mean, he is definitely coaching Caleb to take chances. I think he did so much that last week when the offense has accomplished nothing, not yesterday, last week against Minnesota, I think Caleb was overlooking everything underneath because he's got the green light to try to push the ball downfield. And yesterday, guys, they achieved that. Yep. The Bears got yardage in big chunks. Roma Dunze was catching the ball well beyond the sticks every time he did. I mean, they were more aggressive, and Caleb was obviously more comfortable. And the offensive guy, I want to say this. I don't know what his PFF grade on. PFF always seems to be backwards of what I think when I'm watching a football game. But this Jake Curran, I know he had a bad penalty. He looks pretty efficient to me every time he's in the game. Man.
So Poles might have got one right.
After what's that?
Poles might have got one right.
I said to Dustin after the first time he played, I'd like to see him more to know if you have a solution at left guard. If you're going to let Tevin Jenkins walk, do you have the answer there without spending a big piece of draft capital or a whole lot of money on it? You know what I mean? This guy looks to me like he's a force to be reckoned with. He's not very movable, man. If you watch him specifically when you're watching the Bears, if you focus on him, he doesn't get bullied.
Well, they had Jake Curhan at 44.3 yesterday.
Well, Sean,
I think it's just Jake. Curran.
What's interesting to me is the timing that you're seeing this stuff on Instagram that poses the question: are the Bears handcuffing Caleb Williams? I mean, Sean, yesterday he had 26 completions for 334 yards. That's 8.4 yards per completion. I mean, that's the second highest he's had all season. I mean, he's clearly you can look at the numbers. He's clearly throwing the ball downfield.
His yards per attempt were pretty high as well. His yards per attempt were much higher.
I will say this. I did not agree with the statements. I just really wanted to get your guys' opinion. I talked to you about this earlier, Kyle. I didn't agree with it, but I wanted to see if you guys did at all, because I've seen, I mean, he ripped it the last 5 weeks. He's been throwing the ball downfield. I just think that people are looking for a reason here at the beginning that the Bears are starting so slow, but I am on the same page with you guys. I think it's an identity crisis, and they don't know what to do and how to start football games, and that's criminal.
Trey asked, "You guys think Caleb will pass Jay in passing yard?" Yeah, he's going to catch one of Jay Cutler's seasons.
Yeah, Jay Cutler is when the Bears when you look at the Bears' top
Sean,
5
throw
passers.
That list up there.
You look at the Bears' top 5 passers of all time when it comes to yardage. Jay Cutler is 2 through 5. So Trey, will he catch Jay Cutler when he comes to like the 5th position as the top 5 passer of all time? Yes. Will he catch him as Jay Cutler's best season, which has him number 2 on the list? I don't know. That remains to be seen.
Yep, wrong one. I don't think I plugged that one in, but I do have those numbers. I think I forgot to put that one in
got
there.
What are you looking for, Sean?
I'm sorry, guys.
Do you guys know how many yards Caleb Williams needs in his last 2 games to set the record for the all-time leading passer?
285 yards a game. He's 569 behind Eric Kramer, who sits at 30-38. Jay Cutler is number 2 at 38.12. He's number 3 at 36.66. He's number 4 at 36.59. He's also number 5 at 32.74.
Yeah, he's 2 through 5 on the list.
For those of you who saw the list Sean showed earlier and didn't do the math, Caleb is 77 attempts away from the longest streak in NFL history without an interception.
Pass attempt.
That's what I said, attempts.
Pass attempt, correct. Oops, hold on. Go ahead.
77 attempts away, guys. That's for a rookie quarterback. You got to wrap your head around this. This is a rookie quarterback who's been sacked the most in the NFL and doesn't throw the ball like futile. You know what I mean? This guy's throwing the ball 28 to 35 times a game.
Yeah.
He's throwing the ball a lot. So he's the most sacked player in the NFL. He's a rookie, and he throws the ball probably, I'm guessing, more than 30 attempts per game. And he hasn't thrown an interception in 9 starts? Right?
Yep, say that again, I'm sorry?
9 consecutive games, yep.
9 consecutive games, yes.
And first of all, Chris Foster, thanks for joining us, man.
Thanks, Chris. Merry Christmas, buddy.
Yeah, Chris says Caleb 22 sacks in the fourth quarter. Fourth quarter game within 7 points. Caleb has taken 8 sacks and has 0 touchdowns. His fourth quarter touchdowns all came down 2 scores playing catch up versus prevent, 4 and 11. I don't know exactly what Chris is trying to say there. I think basically what he's saying is he's the sack rate, 2 yards airtime passes. The sack rate's too high in the fourth quarter. But if you go back and look at Caleb Williams so far this year, the second half, he has been one of the best quarterbacks in all of the NFL. I mean, that is where he has done most of his damage. I think part of that has to do with coaching. I don't think they're making adjustments till halftime. I think good coaches make adjustments drive to drive. I think that's why sometimes you'll see offensive coordinators or head coaches go sit down on the bench with their quarterback and kind of console them and go over the iPads and see what they missed or see where they can change things, fix things, improve things. The Bears just don't do that stuff. Most of the time it's Caleb sitting by himself on the bench looking at the iPad. I think the Bears wait. They have it's kind of set their game plan to wait till halftime to make a certain adjustment, especially probably due in part because Caleb Williams is a rookie and they don't want to overload him and put too much on his plate. But I mean, if you guys have noticed, the Bears have taken some of that those pre-snap decisions, audibles, off of Caleb Williams' plate. That was probably a good decision because you don't want to overload a rookie quarterback playing the NFL for his first season ever. But you look at Caleb Williams. I mean, if you guys want to we can get into a Caleb Williams conversation right here. There's 100 things here I can go over that would anybody who doesn't like Caleb Williams. And I'm not saying Chris is one of those people. I'm saying anybody who doesn't like Caleb, because I see it all over Instagram, I see it all over Facebook, I see it all over Snap. He is going to be the best Bears quarterback of all time, and it's not even going to be close, guys. It's not. He might already be the best Bears quarterback of all time, and this is his rookie season with 3 different offensive coordinators, a terrible coaching staff, and a banged-up offensive line that now this season has already had over 30 different combinations on the offensive line. In just this season, they've had over 30 different combinations on the offensive line. Sean, how many have they had since Ryan Poles took over here?
I believe I was actually going to find that. I just want to be accurate on that number. I believe it is 63. I looked it up.
It's the record. It's the NFL record in the last 3 seasons by a landslide. By a landslide. It's not even close. The Bears have had 30 different combinations of offensive line this season.
Okay. Really quick, Kyle. The Bears' current offensive line today or yesterday, Borum, Curhan, Shelton, Pryor, Wright, was their 21st different combination this season and the 63rd under Ryan Poles 3 seasons as GM of the Chicago Bears.
Well, let me just ask you guys, because it's confused. It confuses me. You're talking about a team that hasn't had a competitive quarterback since Jim McMahon, who also was not a great quarterback. He's not on the list of top 5 passers all time for the Chicago Bears. I mean, he did his job. The defense pretty much won that Super Bowl. We all know that's the best defense in NFL history. But for the people who don't like, why, Sean, Vernon, why do you guys believe that people have this hate for, or this dislike for Caleb Williams? I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me, because, even the fact that he has 4 300-yard passing games this season. When's the last time Mitch Trubisky in 2018, and that was like Mitch Trubisky was kind of like a one-hit wonder, if you call him. What is the disdain for Caleb Williams? This guy is clearly, it's not me saying this because of my opinion or because I like Caleb Williams. Look at the statistics. He is the best Bears quarterback ever to play football for the Chicago Bears.
Kyle, if I could, I wasn't the biggest fan of Caleb coming into the season. I had a lot of questions surrounding his character, his ability, whether he would be generational, whether his antics in college were that of going to be a disaster here in the NFL. He has done everything a professional should. He's handled himself as a professional at the mic with his teammates. Did you guys see the inspirational speech he gave his teammates running out of the tunnel before the Lions game yesterday? He gathered his whole team around, gave him an inspirational speech. He's sitting on what he's sitting on, which is 2 different head coaches, 3 different offensive coordinators, a big fat mess, and this guy's still motivating his teammates. I don't give a shit if he paints his fingernails, wears pink fucking cell phones. I could give a shit. The guy goes out on the football field and he acts like a warrior. He's been a warrior, and that's all he's done. And he showed up. He's not quit on his football team. He's done everything I wasn't sure he could do, and this guy has won me over 100%. And that's all I can say. Brandon can back me up here. I was not a Caleb Williams fan coming in. In 14 games, this guy has won me over. I am all in.
If I told you that a rookie quarterback was going to break every franchise record ever set in a season in which his head coach and 2 offensive coordinators were fired, you'd probably tell me that I'm an idiot. You know what I mean? That's just not. Caleb is overcoming a lot of adversity, guys. More than Justin Fields. More than Mitch Trubisky. I mean, more than bad roster. I'm just the dysfunction. This coaching staff, because Kyle's pointed out all the numbers over the last few weeks, is losing games in historic fashion. I mean, we're breaking records that we're doing what 1 in 68 million it was to lose all 6 of those games with the 90% chance of winning. This organization is the only one in the NFL that could do that. They really are, guys.
I'm going to touch on this really quick, and if you guys want to jump in, number one, he says 50,000 times at his pressers because he's a rookie and he's in an indelible situation. For the love of Christ, I don't know what you want him to say. Number one,
Sean. I mean, do you really care what he's saying? I mean, you guys, not all these guys who are good at football are great public speakers. Right. I mean, just because he's good at football doesn't mean he's comfortable standing in front of a room full of hundreds of people or millions of people on television and being a good speaker.
We more than welcome the chat. We love.
Oh yeah, 100%.
He comes Thursday nights. He hates Caleb Williams. And there's no changing his mind. Caleb Caleb could throw 4,500 yards and 52 touchdowns next year, and we can win a Super Bowl. And Chris is going to say Bajan should play the next season. I mean, it's
Real
just
quick. This is just a quote I heard, and it's one of my favorite quotes of all time. I heard this a long time ago. I've said this to people 1,000 times. Chris, anybody listening, before you judge somebody, you better make sure you're living a perfect life. Because there are certain, I'd like to see Chris talk to 100 million people in front of him on a TV screen and see how many ums he drew.
That's the second point.
But I mean, if you guys, we could do this the easy way, I guess. Then, Caleb Williams has now set the record for Bears completions. He set the record for rookies, Bears completions, Bears passing yards, and Bears passing touchdowns. He also has the lowest interceptions of any Bears rookie to play an entire season so far at this point of the season. So unless he throws like 10 over the next 2 games, he's going to set that record as well. He's been sacked 60 times, more than any other quarterback in the NFL. He still is, if you look at his numbers compared to Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix, the 2 other rookies who have played every single game in the NFL season, he is right there with them. He is if ahead of them in some statistical categories, right behind them in some statistical categories. None of the 3 of these guys are standing out, as you can clearly tell, going to be the best of the 3. All 3 of them look like they're going to be good players for the entirety of their career. He is on pace to set the Bears passing record of all time, not just rookies, guys. Bears pass. Sean already said it, you guys. He needs 284 yards in these next 2 per game, the next 2 games, to set the single season passing record for the Chicago Bears. He's going to be close to the single season record for touchdowns. As long as he throws a couple touchdowns in the next 2 games, he'll be about 5 shy. He is, like you said, Sean, the consummate professional. You haven't heard him complain. You haven't heard him come out and say, I don't want to be on this team anymore. I want a team with an offensive line. I want a team with a good head coach. I want a team with a good GM. You haven't heard any of that stuff out of Caleb Williams. He continues to be a professional.
A stat that's been pretty overlooked as well, and he's probably going to finish where he is right now. Right now, he's 5th all-time rushing yards by a quarterback in Bears history.
Yeah, and he's never going to surpass Justin Fields' best season as a running quarterback. That's never going to happen.
No, and I don't.
Two different styles.
There's a player. There's the top 4 seasons above Caleb Williams' current season were done by 2 players. Justin Fields is 2 of them, and Bobby Douglas is 2 of them.
Right, but Chris says right here,
Fields
real quick.
has the 3rd most by a player.
Chris says right here, breaking Bears QB records, LOL. I mean, but Chris, that's all you have to go off of, right? I mean, I'm not going to sit here and compare Caleb Williams to Joe Montana and Tom Brady. This guy just got drafted out of USC. Like, he's played 15 games in the NFL, or 15 games in the NFL. You have no idea. He could become one of the best ever to play football. We don't know. Every quarterback coming to the NFL struggles in the rookie season. Every player coming to the NFL struggles in the rookie season. What I'm saying is, for a guy like Chris and ourselves who have been Bears fans for so long, how can you complain about having the best quarterback we've ever had on this team in our lifetime? And if people want to talk about the 85 Super Bowl and talk about Jim McMahon's numbers, fine, bring Jim McMahon's numbers to the show. We'll compare him to Caleb Williams' stats right now. Caleb Williams is a better passer of the football than Jim McMahon. And if Caleb Williams had more help around him, an offensive line, a defense, a coach that could tell you where his that had a brain in his head, then Caleb Williams would be a much better player. If Caleb Williams would have been drafted by the Washington Commanders, he would be having a better season than Jaden Daniels if Jaden Daniels was drafted by the Chicago Bears. This is a part of playing for a team owned by the McCaskies. It's an utter disaster. It's been an absolute train wreck for the last 20 years. George McCaskey has absolutely no idea what he's doing. We've now gone through 10 head coaches, 30 quarterbacks. The fact that Caleb Williams is doing what he's doing in this situation on this team should prove to you that not only is this guy the best Bears quarterback of all time, but he has potential to be the best quarterback in the NFL. If you can do what you're doing with 3 different offensive coordinators, 2 different head coaches, no offensive line, an organization that has absolutely become the laughingstock of the league, and you're still putting up these kinds of numbers, he is clearly a God-given talented football player. No doubt about it. It's not even a question.
Let me ask this, because we all get really excited, when Caleb Williams starts scrambling around and running around. The problem that we've run into this year is no one knows how to work themselves back to the ball. This isn't a Caleb Williams problem. If they can figure out how to run this scramble drill, these players start working themselves back to the ball, Dude, this guy's going to be the most deadly quarterback in the NFL outside of the pocket. And I would not have said that 14 games ago. But when you watch him, if you don't see that, I don't want to be mean when I come across and say this. I honestly don't think you know what you're watching. That's just my opinion. He does also have, there are some holes. There is a long way to go. But that's part of the development of a quarterback. And I beg you to go look back at the beginning of Josh Allen's career, because he's a pretty damn good football player right now. He was also labeled a bust 24 games into his career, something like that. They were still writing articles about how bad Josh Allen was. I bet you can't find those articles anymore. Give the kid time. It's patience. And if you're watching what you see, his arm angles, the way he's getting out, throwing across his body. Yes, he does have to work on his deep balls. And I'm sure he's going to spend time this offseason working on that deep ball accuracy. That wasn't supposed to be a problem of his, but it is. And it's fine.
And more importantly, Sean, he's a player who's going to grow. And if that's
Correct.
not obvious to you, Chris Foster, I don't know how a player could prove that, because Caleb Williams had 5 turnovers in 2 games. And since that 2-game span, he's had, I think, 3 fumbles and 0 interceptions over 9 games.
Thanks, Trey.
So, I mean, this is a player who learns things. This is a player who learns from his mistakes, who tries to get better every day. And he's never going to look. Caleb Williams wants to be perfect. He strives for perfect. And every game that he's not, which he never will be, he's going to instead of after a game's finished, he's not going to focus on the good. He's going to focus on what he did wrong and how to fix it. So I'm going to say this. CJ Stroud had an immaculate rookie year, but he really regressed in his sophomore season. Caleb Williams has had the best season a Bears quarterback ever had, well, rookie at least, and he's going to be better next year. There's no doubt about that. I mean, there's probably going to be a guy who's at least competent in calling plays on this football team. There's probably going to be a much better offensive line, right? Guys, if you replace one of these guys with some talent, you've got a better, like if Braxton Jones, if you draft a left tackle, that line's already 5 or 6 places better than it was ranked last season.
Yeah.
So you just get a little bit of talent there. 2 players, you flip 2 players that are, like I said, if you find out that a Curran can play for you, can fill in on a quality line with better players around him. That's the beauty of this line too, guys. Is if you get a stud left tackle and you have Darnell Wright and you get a good, let's say, center, the guys who are playing guard will be better. You know what I mean?
100%.
If multiple pieces on your line are strong, it's a much easier job for the other guys. So the Bears just got to get, I would say, 2 pieces right on this line. But
and really quick on this USC, his final year at UFC, Chris, you got to be fair, man. There was 0 NFL talent on that team. The only other player drafted in that team was Jerry Rice's son, I think, in the 7th round. There wasn't pros coming off that team. Caleb Williams
probably wouldn't have been drafted if
and he hasn't played a snap in the NFL. He's like a practice squad player, dude. He was drafted in the 7th round. He's going to be cut next year. I mean,
if he wasn't,
Williams had to play hero
kid, he probably wouldn't have been drafted if he wasn't Jerry's kid. I'll be honest.
Philip's got a good question.
He wasn't impressive. Jordan Addison was at least good. Caleb at least had a play.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
When he had Jordan Addison, he won the Heisman Trophy. That's
exactly.
That's what he did with Jordan Addison.
Philip asked us a question here. Do you guys feel Poles is coming back next year? I believe they need to clean house yet once again.
Yeah, let's get into Poles.
Yes, we will get into polls because I fitted him for a clown suit this weekend, boys. That's right. He's looking more uniform than I've seen him in 3 years. Ryan Poles. Man, Ryan Poles.
Yeah, we're going to call this segment Bullshit.
Bullshit. I love it. Philip, to answer your question, I've been on this train for quite some time, and I think everyone else is jumping on this train. I don't think Poles should be back. I have not liked a lot of things that he's done. I understand. We can start going through it if we eliminate the trade with Carolina. I know we can't because it was a huge trade that did so much for the Bears. But at that same time, with that trade, if Carolina was better at that time, if we didn't end up with Caleb Williams, we ended up with the 6th or 7th or 8th round or pick in that draft. everyone's wanting his ass fired because this team is a lot worse keeping Justin
I mean,
Fields.
that could have been Bo Nix or Drake May or Jaden Daniels. So let's
Yeah, but let me ask you this.
They
Let me
all
ask
pretty
you
good.
this. Hold on, but let me ask you this, Kyle. You end up at number 8 with Bo Nix. Does this coaching staff do what Sean Payton can do with Bo Nix? Bo Nix would probably look like a scrub here in Chicago. Am I wrong?
No, well, I mean, I don't think he would look like he does in Denver, but I think he's still a very good player. You still drafted a very good player. That's the goal, is to draft good players. I mean,
Hold on,
Sure.
let's get into rookie quarterbacks a little bit later. I want to rank rookie quarterbacks, but let's stick with Ryan Poles right now. Guys, well, first off, I want to say this. The most overlooked thing that Ryan Poles did that offends me as a fan to this day, egregious negligence, is taking less for a player who desires to go somewhere specifically. We can't overlook this. Justin Fields it was verbally stated that by, I think Brad Biggs said he thinks there might have been a 3rd round pick on the table from another football team. We're thinking it's the Philadelphia Eagles, but Justin Fields wanted to be a Steeler. That cannot happen ever.
Yeah.
It never has. It never will again. It's just another Bears kind of thing, man.
Hold on.
No
Brandon, 1 second.
GM has
Brandon,
ever
hold on.
not done what's best
hold
for
that
the
thought,
team
Brandon.
that remains. They remain in charge of managing versus the player that's leaving. It didn't make sense, and it doesn't make sense. But hold on, Sean.
Hold on. Just hold on 1 second. I just want to talk to the chat. Everybody, you guys got some really good questions in here. We'll let Brandon and Kyle speak on this topic, and we're going to get right back to you guys. I promise. Go ahead, Brandon.
I've constantly asked myself, and I've asked everybody on all these shows, do you guys trust Ryan Poles to hire a new head coach? I don't, because he retained Matt Eberflus. That's all I need to know. But we're going to have a top 10 pick. This team is going to finish 4-13, guys. They started 4-2. They're going to finish 4-13. They're going to have a top 10 pick. I'm guessing the 9th overall. It's possible they could have the 8th. I don't trust Ryan Poles to make that pick after the Jalen Carter thing occurred. I don't trust this guy in any way, shape, or form. I really don't. I would prefer, for whoever it was who asked in the chat, I would prefer that the Bears do look for some alignment with their general manager and their new head coach. If Ben Johnson's your guy, Ryan Poles should be terminated.
That's right. Booyah. I think if any coach is your guy.
Kyle's stewing up there, so let him.
No, I'm just saying if any coach is your guy,
I
you
mean,
should be
first of all,
aligning
there
it.
is a happy median between. I mean, the GM should have good relationship with the players, and if he's like cutting people and trading people to places they don't want to go, then he's going to lose that camaraderie with the player. I mean, the players have to trust the GM.
No, Kyle.
Just
You take what's best for your football team.
No, Brennan, there's a happy median. You don't have to take the 6th round pick.
No,
You don't
there's no
necessarily have
happy
to
medium.
take the 3rd
There's
round.
no happy medium.
There is, Brennan, because these players don't want to come to a team in which every player who plays for the team says the GM here sucks and the coach sucks. You
Kyle,
don't want to come.
There's no
here.
way to
So,
spin this.
Brennan, we're seeing it with the
general
Chicago Bulls
manager
right now.
cannot
You're
take
seeing
a
it with the
lesser
Bulls right
offer.
now.
Sean, am I wrong here? You can't take a lesser offer.
No, you shouldn't have done that.
You're seeing it. You guys are seeing it with the Chicago Bulls right now. You know, the Bulls cannot get a free agent to sign in Chicago because nobody wants to play for the GM or coach. You're seeing it on the Bulls.
It's like being a
I agree with both of you.
It's like being a taxpayer and your taxpayer dollars going to something that you completely disagree with. As a fan, watching Ryan Poles settle for less to make Justin Fields happy, who's no longer going to be a Chicago Bear, doesn't make sense.
Well,
I agree.
Here's my problem with Bears fans. Here's why I have a problem with Bears fans. Bears fans are 100%. What have you done with me lately? I have seen Bears fans texting in the middle of the game, this player sucks, get rid of this guy, to some of our best players because they're frustrated watching the game when they know for a fact we should not get rid of that guy. He's a very good player and he's a contributor to this team. I see it all the time. Bears fans are like, oh, Caleb Williams sucks, get rid of him because he has an interception or a fumble.
On Twitter,
it's not a day-to-day thought process. It's year to year.
In regards to that, let me ask you this. Sean, who are the best 3 players on the Chicago Bears?
Probably Caleb Williams, Montez Sweat, and probably unpopular, but DJ Moore.
You truthfully believe what you just said? Truthfully.
Yes, I do.
Wow.
Yes, Kyle, I do.
Who's the 3 best players in the Chicago Bears?
DJ Moore, Jalen Johnson, and Caleb Williams.
Okay. I would
I
say
guess for me, Jalen Johnson and Montez Sweat can be interchangeable. Kyler
Roma
Gordon is
Dunze,
very,
Roma
my
very
Dunze
point
is
here
right
is 'cause I
there.
would say-
Roma Dunze's up there. I haven't seen enough, but he's up there.
because I would say probably right now, I would say Caleb Williams is potentially going to be the best player on this football team. I'd say Jalen Johnson, DJ Moore, probably Kyler Gordon. That would probably
Gordon's
be
very
possibly
Kyler
Keenan
Gordon's very
Allen.
close.
Possibly Keenan Allen. And then Caleb Williams is there. Keenan Allen, Kyler Gordon, Caleb Williams.
I've been waiting for
Montez
this Montez
Sweat is
Sweat.
not even in my top 5. And that
That's a
guy's
mistake.
paid
That's
the
a big
second
mistake.
most on this football team. Actually,
Hey,
the
Brandon,
most.
let me ask you a question. When you line up as an offensive game planner and say, hey, give me one player on the Bears defense I have to stop. You know the only name that comes up on the defensive line? Montez Sweat. You know who's facing 2 or 3 guys every snap? Montez Sweat. Because no one else can get home.
Sean, if I said to you, an opposing offensive coordinator, Sean, what you just said to me. If I said to an opposing offensive coordinator, the guy you have to worry about the most is Montez Sweat.
When you're talking about your defensive line,
he doesn't care. He feels pretty comfortable. He feels like he's going to have a field day, and things are going to be fine to scheme.
Let me
and he's going to get because Montez Sweat doesn't set the edge either, so he's going to scheme whatever the hell he wants.
You never let me. You guys never let me answer the Ryan Poles question.
Hold on, Kyle. Montez Sweat has played with a multitude of injuries this year. He's played through those multiple injuries. It doesn't matter. The guy's a gamer. You're going to knock him for making $100 million and just sitting on the sideline instead of coming out?
That's 20 million because that's 20 million per sack, Sean.
That's crazy.
That's 20 million per sack.
Well, Bernard, you could say the same about Jalen Carter when he gets paid. He's not a sack guy. He doesn't get a bunch of sacks. He's not a huge sack guy. He has like 5 sacks in his career, dude. He has like 8 sacks in his career.
He has more than 5 sacks in his career, and he's a much younger player.
He's got like 8, Brennan. He's got like 8.
He's a much
people
younger
talk about him like
player.
he's the best player in the history of football.
He's not paid $100 million.
Yeah, he's going to be. So he better get those sack numbers up, right? If by your logic, you better get those sack numbers up.
Why do you do this? Why are we comparing? Let's look at compare Montez Sweat. Don't compare Montez Sweat to Jalen Carter. Compare him to $100 million edge rushers. Where is Montez Sweat fall in line in comparison to Nick Bosa and TJ Watt and Myles Garrett? And where does he fall in place with those guys?
All right, Bert, let me ask you a question.
That's where you make your comparison.
Let me ask you guys a question real quick. The Bears fire Ryan Poles at the end of the season. Who replaces him? Who's at the top of your guys' GM candidate list?
I have no idea.
Yeah, exactly. You know why you have no idea? Because not a single name has been mentioned this entire year of who's going to be the next GM in football. And by the way, when you lose Ryan Poles, you're also losing Ian Cunningham. They're both going to go together. And on top of that, guys, you guys I keep hearing this. I don't trust Ryan Poles to hire the next head coach. I don't trust Ryan Poles. You trust the McCaskies to hire the next GM? You trust them?
Well, here's the deal. Here's the deal. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you guys. I still go over Kevin Warren's resume. What makes Kevin Warren qualified to hire the next head coach?
Nothing, exactly.
Or GM?
Nothing.
Zero.
Nothing. He's never done anything like that in his life. Yes, he's a lawyer. He's a lawyer.
Exactly.
He's a politician.
Well, Sean, GMs are financial guys too. I mean,
GMs build rosters.
Kevin Warren would be able to identify
Kevin Warren's
that.
never done in his career.
Kevin Warren would be able to identify. Ryan Poles flipped the salary cap, right? I mean, he flipped the cap on its head, right?
That was part of his job, but he also did that.
Kevin Warren would have to identify a financial, an advocate of.
Number one,
he would have to find somebody with financial knowledge to be the general manager of the Chicago Bears.
Let your fucking team president figure out the financials of the situation and let your GM build the fucking roster, because that's what good GMs do. Go look at the good GMs around the league.
Right.
They're consistently in the playoffs. They're not worried about finances. They find the talent, and then the organization works out the contract.
Right, Sean. But they have to find they're the most important because they deal with talent and money. Presidents deal with money. Coaches deal with talent. GM deals with both. He's the most important person probably in the organization because you have to spend money on the right talent. My point right now is Montez Sweat looks like an awful contract plus a second-round pick. That's what it looks like to me. It doesn't look good. Against Detroit, he wasn't good. He didn't apply pressure. He wasn't there.
I think he had a couple tackles for loss.
Jared Goff was leisurely throwing the ball all over the Bears. That's a moment in which you expect a guy who's paid as much as Sweat to be a problem. Those are the games where
Not
it's
if he's
like,
getting triple teamed. He
okay,
can't be a
okay.
problem. So
We,
he's
I
supposed
don't
to
know
be
why we're
triple
okay.
teamed.
We're gonna move on from this because we're gonna protect. I don't know why we're protecting him. Let's move on from Montez Sweat.
I'm not protecting him. You're saying Montez Sweat's not a good player. He's been a good player in the NFL for the last 6 years.
I don't think he's worth what was he a second round pick
Bernard,
plus
there's
$98
plenty.
million.
How many players are playing in the NFL right now that if you look at their statistics or not, you think Keenan Allen's worth $23 million this year? He's got 694 yards, man. He's not worth $23 million. Not even close.
Oh, okay.
Look at the rest of the receivers getting $23 million a year. They're a lot better than Keenan Allen.
I said, guys, I thought I ended this
win some, you
conversation
lose
when I
some.
said compare Montez Sweat to the other $100 million edge rushers. That should have ended the conversation. He's nowhere near him. They're all well above him. It's a whole different tier.
Okay, then let's
he
talk about
falls
Ryan
off a
Poles.
cliff
Let's talk
where
about
his
Ryan Poles.
performance and productivity is versus those guys. I don't see how we're even arguing this.
Sweat will have a
The
bounce back year
$100 million
next year.
edge rushers are averaging like 10 to 15 sacks this season.
Okay, so
he has 5.
Let's talk about Ryan Poles then. Okay, so you got everybody who's on pro Ryan Poles is going to bring up the trade. Everybody who likes Ryan Poles is going to bring up that trade. Everybody who dislikes Ryan Poles is going to bring up the fact that he retained Matt Eberflus. Everybody who dislikes Ryan Poles is going to bring up Chase Claypool and PJ Walker and all those guys. And everybody who likes Ryan Poles is going to bring up Keenan Allen and DJ Moore and all the guys he's traded for. And you're going to put it and you're going to try to outweigh his pros and cons, right? Well, here's the one thing. If you guys can do that all day, but there's absolutely no way to perfectly quantify his pros and cons. You can't do it. There's no way to quantify it. You can't. Well, I will say this about Ryan Poles. First of all,
hold on really quick. You know what I can't quantify? You know who the 6th highest rated player was, PFF, on the defense for the Bears yesterday? I don't need to say his name because we just talked about him.
Okay.
But he was awful.
Real quick, though, let me finish this Ryan Poles. So when Sean, we fired Phil Emery, what state was the Bears team in?
It was really bad.
Really bad. Financially, the roster had no talent on it whatsoever. Sean, when we fired Ryan Pace, what state was the Chicago Bears franchise in?
We were upside down.
Really
upside down financially.
Dead cap all over the place.
Contract,
no money to spend. Yep. No first round pick. The Bears didn't have any talent on their roster outside of Khalil Mack. And that was pretty much it, right? Khalil Mack.
Yep.
I'll tell you this. If you fire Ryan Poles tomorrow and you go up to a new GM taking over and you say, what state do you think our franchise is in right now? He's going to say, well, you got 8 picks in the draft. You got almost $90 million suspended free agency, and you found the quarterback of the future and the wide receiver of the future. And on top of that, you have Jalen Johnson locked up. You have Kyler Gordon on a rookie contract. You have Montez Sweat, whether you like him or not. You have Gervon Dexter for another 2 years for basically 3 years if you want, or no, 2 years for free, basically. He's on a rookie contract. They're going to pay him nothing. That guy was on pace for 10 sacks before he got hurt. I'm not saying that Gervon Dexter is the answer at the 3 technique, but I'll tell you this. Gervon Dexter in his prime is going to be a 12 sack player. That's a good player for a football team. So if you look at the Bears accumulatively, you have Cole Kmet is the 12th highest paid tight end in the NFL. He probably ranks higher than 12 in terms of talent. So you have Rome Odunze. He brought Keenan Allen over here for almost nothing, a 4th round pick. You're not going to find somebody like Keenan Allen in the 4th round. That's never going to happen. We've seen 4th round. We couldn't get a receiver like Keenan Allen in the 1st when we took Kevin White. So you're not going to find that guy in the 4th round if you're the Chicago Bears. So if you fire Ryan Poles, and you look at the new GM and say, what state do you think the Chicago Bears franchise is in right now? He's going to say, it looks great. You guys, all your contracts are team friendly, and it's all back pay or front pay, depending on when he thinks he's going to have to pay his quarterback. You have the 3rd highest most free agents salary cap space. You have 8 picks in the upcoming draft. You have the quarterback of the future. You have the number 1 wide receiver of the future and the number 2 wide receiver of the future. You have the number 1 corner of the future locked in. You have rotational players on the defensive line. You have a good tight end. You have a good running back. DeAndre Swift's going to be there for the next 2 years after this year. So, I mean, what I'm saying is, I don't think Ryan Poles is the best.
I question rotational pieces. We're watching rotational pieces that he's brought in get their ass kicked.
John, Gervon Dexter and DeMarcus Walker are good rotational pieces in the NFL.
Those are two
very good rotational pieces.
Those are two.
Honestly, if Ryan Poles,
and DeMarcus Walker's been a disappointment for most of his Bears career.
Sean, you also can't take away Andrew Billings from Ryan Poles. It's not his fault that he tore his pectoral. That's not his fault. There's nothing he can do about that. He can't.
If Ryan Poles had terminated Flus and hired Vrabel or Jim Harbaugh,
okay,
he would be the GM of the future.
So you're saying they're a coach away from being a good football team. That's what you're stating right now. They're a coach away from being a good football team.
Leads me to believe he doesn't know what a good head coach is.
Okay, Bernie.
I don't
so here's
disagree
my
with
question to you. Here's my question to you guys.
His resume and head
here's my
coaches
question,
is
Kyle.
loose.
So
and
you're saying
flus.
that
Okay.
the Bears are a coach away from
Ask
being a
me.
talented football team,
I
right?
think they're a lot further away.
Are you guys? Did you guys both just get muted at the same time?
Can you hear me?
Am I? I can't hear you guys.
I
Can
can
you hear
hear. I can hear you, Sean. Kyle's out.
Kyle, you're out. You can hear me? You can hear me, Brandon?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right.
Anyways, man,
I think Kyle
that
was
you-
going to ask me
he
what I
hired
think.
he hired Matt Eberflus, and then
I think-
he stuck with him, and that doesn't lead me to believe that Ryan Poles is going to pick the head coach of our future. And to be honest with you, Sean, if Ryan Poles likes Ben Johnson more than Mike Vrabel, it leads me to believe Mike Vrabel is probably a better candidate. And I'm getting like a Jim Bob Cooter. You remember that guy?
Yeah, I do.
Like I don't know, man. Kyle sent me that interview of Ben Johnson where he's standing on the podium. I don't like his body. He's not the man that I'm thinking the Bears need. But I don't know. We're going to talk a little bit more about Ben Johnson.
Yeah,
but
I
let's
had a
finish
feeling
up on
Kyle-
Ryan Poles.
I had a feeling Kyle was going to ask me what I thought, how far the Bears are away. I think the Bears need 3D linemen, 3 linebackers, a cornerback. They need to move Stevenson to safety or cut his ass altogether. You need 3 O linemen, something we've needed for the last 3 years. These are all on polls, and that's a lot to fix in 1 year. If we don't need 3D linemen, 3 linebackers, another corner, 3 O linemen, you please tell me.
You're exaggerating. What 3
what I need.
linebackers? You don't like TJ Edwards?
You need another linebacker. Give me a rotational
You
piece.
said 3.
Jack Sanborn
You said
continues
3.
to be a 40 rated PFF for like the 7th week in a row.
Yeah,
You
he's an
need
undrafted
3
free agent, but
linebackers.
That's what I'm
because one-
saying. This
And
is
what
what
the
I'm
hell
talking about,
happened
Sean.
to
No, I
Noah?
understand.
This
This is
What
what I'm
happened
talking
to
about, though.
Noah
I understand
Sewell?
your argument, but you say 3 linebackers because you're trying to make your point when you know TJ Edwards is a good player. So you're being unfaithful.
Okay, let me ask
just
you
to
this,
make your
though.
argument. That's what
TJ
I'm talking
Edwards
about.
goes down in week 1 with a
This-
broken arm and he's out for 8 weeks. And you bring in another scrub? No, you need to add depth. Something the Bears continue not to do. Look at Detroit. They are thriving with dudes who
Sean,
were
that's
bagging
all
groceries 2
can't be
weeks
done in
ago.
2 years. You can't build an entire 53-man roster in 2 years. It's not possible. You don't get 28 draft picks. You don't get
shouldn't look
$700 million
worse at
in
the
the
end
Hold
of
on,
year
hold on, guys.
three.
Hold on,
There's
hold on,
3
hold on.
players
Listen,
left from Ryan Pace.
You shouldn't
3.
look worse at the end of year 3 than you did at the beginning of year
Because
1.
you're building an entire
much-
new roster. There are 3 players left here from Ryan Pace. 3
Kyle.
players. 3.
Kyle, how many starters do you believe
Oh, wow.
need to
Wow.
be replaced on this football team?
Starters?
Starters.
I mean, we can have this conversation. Sean doesn't think Montez but needs replaced. You
Just
do.
give me
So, I mean,
positions
what are you
that
talking
give me
about?
positions that scream to you need help. Can be
Positions
better.
that are absolutely necessity going into next season. You have to replace them.
Left tackle, center, middle
Left tackle,
linebacker,
center, guard. At
Middle
least one
linebacker.
guard. At least one guard.
middle
Okay, that's
linebacker.
4. Well,
They-
middle
I don't-
linebacker.
I think they like the middle linebacker more than you guys think. And I think they asked Edwards to do stuff he is not going to do. I think they're taking Edmonds out of his comfort zone.
Edmonds.
I think
sucks.
Edmonds was a good player before he came to Chicago, and all of a sudden he sucks.
Kyle,
That's
no,
strange.
They
That's
need a
strange
middle
to me.
linebacker. No,
They need a
very
middle.
strange.
I'm with Brandon on this one.
very
They
strange
need
to
a
me.
middle linebacker.
It's funny that when he signed him, you guys liked him, and all of a
Okay,
sudden he
well,
plays for
Kyle,
the
Yeah, because
Bears.
coming
Kyle,
out
we
of
have to find-
Buffalo,
we have to find
coming out of
some-
Buffalo,
we
the
have
guy
to find
was a
some
tackle
scrubs.
machine. He
Okay,
sucks
Sean.
now.
So what
He
have the
can't tackle
Bears
for
done?
shit.
What have the Bears done to negate his?
Dude,
his they're not
Kyle,
using
you
him the
watched
right
the
way.
same game I did yesterday. Did you watch him? Gibbs bounce right off
Right.
of him like
I'm not gonna make
7
this-
times
I'm not
yesterday?
gonna make this an
He
Edmonds
can't
conversation.
tackle
Yeah,
for
he can't
shit.
get off a block.
I'm going to
He can't get
laugh
off a
in
block.
everybody's face if they fire Ryan Poles and hire another Phil Emery, and we're so fucked for the next 10 years. We got to rebuild it
Well,
all
really
again.
quick-
I'm going to
really
absolutely
quick-
destroy all of you, destroy
Really
everybody.
quick.
And if you guys think for a second McCaskey is
Kyle,
not capable
hey.
of hiring somebody worse than Ryan Poles, you're insane. Phil Emery, Ryan Pace, go look at their GMs, guys. This is the best we've had it in 25
Kyle.
years. No
Hey,
question.
Relax.
No question. Better than Jerry Angelo, money, better financially than Jerry Angelo, better than Ryan Pace, and better than Phil Emery. It's the best we've had it in 10 years.
All right, Sean. What's next on the
Well,
agenda?
I'm just trying to get back into this chat, guys, because we got a lot of people talking
Yeah.
about a lot of things.
Throw it in. Let's hear it.
Unpopular opinion from Trey Shy. Flus should have finished out the year. Chris Foster has Trey Smith in free agency, left tackle top pick, and both seconds. We need a center and D line. I don't disagree with any of that. Chris Foster again, D line top 5, LT in the second. I would take a left tackle in the first at that 9th pick if he's available. I
think my point more was I think they need a lot more position. They could be better at a lot more positions than you think.
Like, the Bears are closer to being a good team than you guys think. That's all I'm saying.
4 positions on the line, offensive line.
They're not as far off as you think.
Kyle.
The Bears coaching staff has made the Bears look absolutely atrocious, and they look like one of the worst teams in football because of the coaching staff, and that's on Ryan Poles. But you guys, I'm telling you, if we get a new GM and who also hires a shitty coach, which the Bears are going to do, you guys know the Bears, they're going to hire a shitty GM. Then we're going to be in a worse position than we've ever been in the history of.
All right, Sean, throw it to the chat.
Yeah, we got Tomlin. Tomlin gave up on Claypool. Tomlin, come on, polls, huge red flags. Some stuff being said about Nate Davis. Got to get serious with the vetting process. Don't disagree. I hope Trey Shy was kidding with this comment right here because Phil Emery can kiss my bleep. And Phil, thank you for bringing this up because I agree with that 100%. That name slipped my mind. Ray Agnew would be the GM. I'm such an idiot. Well, had the flu the other day. I actually read an impressive article about Ray Agnew out of Detroit. If the Bears hired him, I think that would be a huge plus for the Chicago Bears, guys. A huge plus.
You guys are getting a lot of.
I don't like the Lions.
I don't like the Lions. I don't want their whole fucking front office on Chicago. I mean, the Lions have been. You're taking a very small sample size. They've been the worst organization in sports for the last 50 years, guys. Now they're good for 3 years. All of a sudden, we want to hire their entire team. Be careful.
I don't like Bieniemy at OC. I think Ben Johnson would have to bring.
I also don't like that pick. No,
Ben Johnson would have to bring his own offensive.
Ray Agnew is from the Sean McVay tree. He's only been in Detroit for 2 years, so he's not a lifelong loser in the Motor City.
Oh, do you know where Ryan Poles is
from?
He's done
a really good job.
You know where Ryan Poles is from?
He's done a really good job.
You know where Ryan Poles is from? It's from the Kansas City Chiefs team that's won 3 Super Bowls in a row, or is about to win 3 Super Bowls in a row, and it drafted Patrick Mahomes, and is one of the best teams in the history of football.
You know who the secret to that success wasn't.
Well, I mean, he drafted all the players that are playing on that team right now, Sean.
Phil says, I'd love to see Olin Kreutz as O-line coach as well. I wouldn't mind seeing that either. If Poles signs Ben Johnson, I keep him for 1 year. If anyone but Ben, I fire him. And then he took less for Fields. Bad late picks. Clay bus trade. Took Caleb over the Hall. Fought for Eberflus this year to stay.
There was no Hall, Chris.
There was no Hall that anyone has heard about. Ben Johnson doesn't want to come over here and coach Caleb's. This is a new guy. Brosis. Hey, buddy.
Strange names.
Thanks for joining us, man. We really appreciate it. And
what's Brosin? Yeah.
We really appreciate you jumping on, man. We're getting a little lost in the chat. We're trying to catch up here.
Ben Johnson doesn't want to come coach.
Well,
I don't know about that. I think Caleb's the one thing Ben Johnson might want to be a part of. I don't think.
I'm sure Roma Dunze, DJ Moore, and Keenan Allen have no intrigue whatsoever. It's definitely all Caleb. If you can't get Ben Poles as fired.
The only thing Caleb can lead is men. Oh Jesus! Come on, another hater. We got the Crooked Commish back. Welcome back, brother. Really appreciate you checking us out again tonight.
Thank you.
Hey man, I just gotta speak the truth, brother. I just gotta speak the truth here.
I think he meant don't do Sanborn like that. I think is what he meant.
Yeah, don't. I was talking trash about him, but I just
left tackle, center, guard, 3D lineman. Safety, linebacker, safety for sure. Because Briscoe's issues.
We got another one.
Sean, go back to that post.
Hold on, we got another one here. Lefty loose.
No, he comes on our Thursday nights.
Never saw him here.
It depends on how lucky you get, Lefty. It doesn't take that long to rebuild. I've seen teams rebuild. Good teams rebuild for 10. The Patriots have been a good franchise for the last 25 years, right? Now they've been rebuilding for 6.
No, it's not a
the Bears have only been doing it for 3. So
which one did you want to go back to, Kyle?
Sean, the one where he just said they need all the stuff that they need. So he says
Left tackle,
center,
center,
guard, 3D lineman, safety, linebacker, running back, and most important new QB. So here's what I'm talking about right here.
Not a new QB.
Here's what I'm talking about right here. If you would ask Chris Foster at week 5, week 6, after DeAndre Swift had the 2 back-to-back games of 160 yards offense, if we knew running back, he wouldn't be on this list. This is what I'm talking about. Some Bears fans have a very day-to-day thought process. Is DeAndre Swift a bad player that we need to replace, or the coaching staff not using him correctly? Which one do you guys think is probably closer to the truth? Did DeAndre Swift look good in Philadelphia?
I don't think DeAndre Swift's a bad player.
Not at all.
I just think he's,
I don't
I
think
think he's
running
not
back
being
is the
used, I
top
don't think
of
he's
our
being
list of
used
players
correctly
we
in
need to replace.
Chicago.
And then everybody always puts safety on the list. Like it's Ryan Poles' fault that Jaquan Brisker gets 7 concussions in 5 years. That's Ryan Poles did that. He didn't do that. He's not the one who did that. He drafted a good player. Put him in position to start. He was a good player for the Chicago Bears. He plays a violent game, and he had 4 concussions. There's absolutely nothing.
Let me ask you a question. Based on what you've seen, who would you rather have, David Montgomery or DeAndre Swift?
I mean, I'd rather have them both.
Okay, but you can only have one.
Well, I mean, there's not a team in the NFL that has one running back.
You can only have one, though.
I'd rather have Swift.
Yeah, I'd rather have Swift. I'd rather have the home run hitter for sure. Yeah, I mean that's like what you Sean. Would you rather have Dave Montgomery or Jahmyr Gibbs?
I for the Bears' style of offense and the style that they use, I'd much rather have
style.
David Montgomery.
They
do. They run DeAndre Swift between the fucking guards up the fucking middle of the line. I'd rather have if that's the style of offense you want to run. I'd rather have David Montgomery on this.
You'd rather have Roshan Johnson. You'd rather have Roshan Johnson run between the
running back for that.
You'd rather have Roshan Johnson run between the tackles.
I would, but you know what?
What you're saying is, even if David Montgomery was here, they're probably not going to use him, right? Because they have a guy who can run between the tackles.
No, because
they don't use
the middle. He'd be serving his purpose.
Roshan Johnson can run up the middle. He's proven that.
Crooked Commish has a question. If you don't give Poles an extension, what good coach can you realistically expect to get? Commish, for me, it would be doing this right. You now have your president of operations. Now you can pair your GM with your coach of your choosing, and you can finally do it correctly because you're supposed to have 1, 2, 3 all in lockstep. The Bears could attempt to do it right, whether they hit on
alignment. The 1, 2, 3. The 1, 2, 3 is GM, coach, QB.
Not when you're talking front office. You hire your president hires your GM hires your coach, then your coach drafts your quarterback. That's the way it works in the NFL, guys.
And the Bears are going to hire a GM, and Mike McCarthy's going to get fired, and the GM the Bears hire is going to hire Mike McCarthy as the head coach.
I don't know. After watching that Cowboys game yesterday, man, they were pretty much saying they look like they're bringing them back.
Hold on, we got a new chat.
Got to think year to year, guys.
Oh, Mike Rose. And yes, I agree with you. Phil. I do. I really do, man. I really do.
Here's the problem, Phil, is we've all said this before. We all liked Ryan Poles. We liked Ian Cunningham. We liked it. We liked the regime that was coming in here. We all like Ray Agnew, right? We all like him. He's awesome. If the Bears like him and hire him, he's not good.
Here, Kyle, can I ask you a question? In a couple of years, he's been with Detroit, Ray Agnew. What's went wrong? Their drafts have been solid. Their teams continue to get better every year. This guy was not a Detroit loser. He came from a winning pedigree.
I understand, but you guys aren't listening. That's a day-to-day thought process. You have to look at
it's not a day-to-day thought process. Dude.
Sean, what GM gets less than what GM do you judge after 2 years? After 2 years, Ryan Pace looked great. He won Executive of the Year. He looked great. He looked phenomenal. Matt Nagy won Coach of the Year, dude.
Because of defense. Because of the defense. We still had no offense.
When you're talking about multi-billion-dollar businesses with 53
players. Here, Kyle, you're saying
years of sustained success. Look at the Steelers.
You're basically saying it's Ryan Poles or bust. Because if the Bears go anywhere else from Ryan Poles, the franchise is doomed to the end of the world.
I'm saying if George McCaskey hires the next GM, the likelihood that he is worse than Ryan Poles is higher than not. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I'm going to disagree because I'm going to tell you why. Because Phil Emery was awful, Pace was better, and now Poles is better. She's an upward trajectory. Every GM he's hired, so maybe the fourth one will be the charm. I don't know. But Ryan Poles has put the Bears. I mean, when he said we're going to take the North and never give it back, I think he meant we're going to take the cellar and never give it back. Because you realize this, Kyle, right now. When the Bears tried to tank, We lost 10 in a row when they purposely tanked. He's about to top that after we lose to Seattle and Green Bay over the next 2 weeks. In a season we were supposed to compete.
If Ryan Poles is retained, which he's going to be, bad news for you guys, by the way. Ryan Poles is not going anywhere, by the way.
I disagree.
If he's retained, by the way, unless he leaves the Chicago Bears, because it's the McCaskies that are hiring the next great GM are so dysfunctional, he decides to leave. Let me ask you guys a question, Brennan. If say the Bears hire just pick a name, Ben Johnson, Mike Vrabel, whichever one you want, and he's a really good football coach. He's an amazing coach. The Bears did not screw up. They finally got it right and hired the right coach. Mm-hmm. How far away, Brandon, are the Chicago Bears from making the playoffs? If Ben Johnson's a phenomenal football coach, amazing, gets the best out of Caleb Williams, how far away are the Chicago Bears? How many years until the Chicago Bears make a run at the NFL playoffs?
That depends on Ryan Poles, man.
Well, I mean, just say so. Say that Ben Johnson makes all the picks. He's like Ryan Poles. These are the guys I want in the draft.
No, Ben Johnson.
How far away are the Bears from making the
Ryan
playoffs?
Poles, Ben Johnson's not Bill Belichick. Ryan Poles is going to make your picks. Here's the thing, man.
They're going to make the picks.
You just
together.
said it. Ryan Poles has $90 million in 8 draft picks. Ryan Poles could put this team in the playoffs next season. Do I trust Ryan Poles to do that? No.
Well, Vernon, they make the picks together. I mean, you've seen the videos of Matt Eberflus in the draft room applauding when Ryan Poles makes the pick. You've seen it. Like, they make the picks together. It's all a cohesive unit they're all drafting. Same as Ian Cunningham. Ian Cunningham is also involved in making those picks. It's Poles, Cunningham, and the head coach. They all, and the defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator also get to chime in as well. You've seen it in all the draft. If you guys watch Hard Knocks, they all cumulatively make decisions, all of them.
To me, the Bears don't look like a playoff team next season.
I mean, General Manager John's making some good points here in the comments, man. 9 of 15 games under 20 points. Offense is 31st in total yards. Caleb is 29th in completion percentage. Lost 9 straight games yesterday. 17 points at home, 3 points in the second half. 83 points is the lowest total in the Poles era. The offense is trash. Caleb's completion percentage is 29th. Inaccurate and no vertical passing game. I don't agree with that.
General Manager John, let me ask General Manager a question. General Manager John, put up the numbers you think Caleb Williams would have to have in a season. Don't go into the fourth quarter. Just give me his touchdowns, passing yards, interceptions for it to be considered a successful first-round pick. Put up the number.
Here,
you think Caleb Williams, you think it's 5,000 yards and 53 passing touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Put up the numbers you think that Caleb Williams would have had to have this year to consider it to be a successful year for a rookie quarterback in the NFL. I'm curious to see what your numbers are.
And as you think about that, General Manager John, I will tell you this. Caleb Williams versus the NFC North was 119 for 188, a 63% completion percentage. He averaged 306.2 total yards per game. He had 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and a 98.98 passer rating. Over his last 9 games, and you can't overlook this, and I don't care if it's garbage time, it's a professional quarterback out there doing professional things. In his last 9 games, he is 0 interceptions his last 9 games. Sorry, I did not write his last. I did not write those numbers down. I wrote down. I just copied the numbers from the.
He has 0 interceptions in 9 games.
Yeah, in 9 games. It says last season the Bears scored 28 and 26 points versus the Lions. The Bears. I think. For me, I think, and I agree with Phil here, because this is my biggest problem with the Bears. You should be seeing, even if it's not frontline talent, you should be seeing that depth that's starting to grow of players after 2 drafts and free agency, players that you could say, all right, this isn't a starter. This is a good swing tackle. This is a good backup guard. This is a good player here. This is a good player here. Where are those players on the Bears? Give them to me. Because we've all booted Terrell Smith.
He's saying they do have depth. He's saying this depth is the players that are there right now. Like if they replace Braxton Jones, if they draft a left tackle in this draft, then Braxton Jones is your depth. Is that a good depth piece? Do you like Braxton Jones as a swing tackle?
That's
your depth. That's what he's saying.
If they do that,
that's what he's saying. I'm just telling you what he's saying.
Yeah, and I read that wrong. I do apologize. I disagree with I think they have a lack of depth. Because when I look at depth, I look at teams that sustain injuries, like the Steelers, like the Eagles, who were winning football games while their defense was out. Now their defense is back and they've become elite. The Steelers are missing players all over. They're still winning football games. The Detroit Lions have 16 missing players on defense. They're still being competitive. They're still a competitive football team.
Not their
That's
defense.
depth.
Their defense is not competitive. I mean, you could say against the Bears, Sean, but the 2 games before that, the Detroit's defense has given up like 1,500 yards and 19 touchdowns in 3 games.
It's the Bills. It was Josh Allen.
And look at the game before that. Detroit's been getting
now it's different. Now it's different, right? Because the narrative's not that way. No, their depth is holding up. Their depth is keeping them in games. Their depth is also getting them off the field. When you're missing 16 players, your defense just has to keep you in games.
But
16 players. You only start 11.
Allowing 40 points is not keeping you. Just because your offense can outscore the defense doesn't mean your defense kept you in the game.
They got Josh Allen off the field and got themselves back in a game in which they were getting blown out.
And they lost.
It doesn't matter. Their defense got one of the best offenses off the field in back-to-back drives to take a 17-point lead.
John, are you complimenting the Detroit secondary right now? Is that what you're doing? Are you coming on this podcast and saying Detroit's got a great secondary and their depth's so good that they're very competitive? Is that what you're doing?
I'm saying when you look at depth around the league, the good teams have them, and they continue to win football games through injuries. The Bears have fallen off an epic cliff through their injuries this year.
Sean, I agree. This Lions team you're right. They're 16 players injured on defense. They're bad. The Bears just didn't do what they were supposed to. Every other team is kicking the shit out of this Lions defense. The Bears didn't do it.
And
I don't know if it's Thomasbrown,
the Bears were on their way to scoring 2 different drives. The
Bears,
them away.
With the opportunities the Bears have, they should have scored 30 points against that football team.
They probably would have. Roman Dunze doesn't fumble twice. They probably do score on both those drives.
The Lions' last 7 games, guys, they've given up 3 touchdowns 3 times in their last 7 games. 2 of them are 2 of the best offenses in the league. Aaron Glenn.
That's the injuries. They're giving up 3 touchdowns.
All I got to say is Aaron Glenn's still doing his job because of the number 1 seed and got the 2nd best record in football right now. In the NFC.
Aaron Glenn was given 3 years to get this defense to where it's at. 3 years. This doesn't happen overnight. Year-to-year thought process, guys. Aaron Glenn's first 2 years in Detroit were absolutely horrendous, terrible.
I don't think
one of the worst defenses in the league.
I didn't think Aaron Glenn was that great of a coach. He's kind of proven me wrong, dude.
Yeah, because he had 3 years to prove you wrong. He had 3 years to prove you wrong. Sean,
hey, he went into Green Bay. He went into Green Bay and held them to 14 points.
They need to win a Super Bowl.
He held the Texans to 20 points.
People wrong here.
Everybody's holding the Texans to 20 points.
Huh?
Everybody's holding the Texans. The Jaguars held the Texans to 20 points.
The Lions need to win a Super Bowl, or nobody proved anything, as far as I'm concerned.
Hey,
General Manager John. So you're comparing Caleb Williams to Jane Daniels' numbers. Now, do me a favor, John. We don't have Jane Daniels. We have Caleb Williams. So go compare Caleb Williams' numbers to Mitch Trubisky's and Justin Fields and Craig Krenzel's and all the dog shit the Bears have had for the last. That's who you're comparing them to. You're not comparing them to. You're not comparing them to Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers and everybody else the Bears didn't draft. You're comparing them to the Bears quarterbacks for the last 50 years. Who's the best? Caleb Williams or Justin Fields, Mitch Trubisky, Craig Krenzel, Shane Matthews, Caleb Haney, Kyle Orton. Go compare all those passers to Caleb Williams and tell me who you think is the best. And then prove to me why you think that player is the best.
Here, I would say this too. When we start talking about best players in the draft, and I know I understand what Jaden Daniels did last week, and he looks unstoppable, and he's doing a lot more with a lot less. But this is also what I brought up shortly after they lost to the Redskins, that this was an structural, institutional coaching thing when you start talking about Kingsbury and Quinn versus Waldron and Flus. It's not even close. It's not even close. The Bears also, I can't remember if I know the Bears did not take any time to interview Kevin O'Connell. Did they also pass up on Dan Quinn, or did they interview Quinn and pass him along? I can't remember. I know Kevin O'Connell never received.
Dan Quinn wasn't a free agent coach when the Bears were looking for a coach.
He was on the Bears list. He was on the Bears list 100%.
Was Dan Quinn available during Matt Eberflus's hire?
Yeah, Kyle, you said Quinn and Flus were on a list of choices.
No, oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm talking about Dan Campbell, Dan Quinn. Yeah, Dan Quinn's not a good coach. So I'm not.
He
Upset.
might win
Dan,
coach of the year.
Dan Quinn may not be a good coach, but he's got a team that was picked to
He's
finish
about
last
to.
in his
Yeah,
division.
he's second.
in the
He's second
playoffs.
for coach of the year behind Kevin
Yeah,
O'Connell.
I'm sorry.
Brandon, I'm
You
gonna
do
say
that.
this again. You guys, Matt, you guys, Matt Nagy was coach of the year. Matt Nagy was coach of the year. Matt Nagy won coach of
That's
the
what I
year.
thought.
Are you listening?
That's what I thought.
Matt
Yeah,
Nagy
you're-
won coach
How
of the
can we
year.
not? How can we
Kyle,
not hear you?
Here, all I'm
Jesus.
saying to you is you're looking at
Nobody's
Dan
listening.
Quinn. Here, you're looking at Dan Quinn and saying he's not a good coach. The Redskins were picked to finish last in their division. They're now could
Commanders.
possibly win their division with a rookie quarterback with Dan Quinn as their first year coach.
Yes, Sean.
So I
if
can't
Dan
sit here and say Dan Quinn's a bad
if Dan
coach.
Quinn, Sean, if next year by week 6 it all falls apart and Dan Quinn stinks, then was it a good hire? If in 2 years Dan Quinn's the worst coach in the NFL, so like I said, it has to be a big sample size. You can't look at 10 games and be like, this guy, like Matt Nagy, won coach of the year from a small sample size, right? It was very tiny. They were like, oh my God, this coach is so good. Look what he did with Mitch Trubisky. They're so good. Now look at him. What if Dan Quinn does that next year? Small sample sizes, man.
We'll have to
sample
see.
sizes.
But you have to
Dan
live
Quinn
on
has
what-
failed in the
Here,
NFL before.
let me ask you this, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but by the fluke, it does. The Washington Redskins win the Super Bowl this year. Does it matter what he does next
Commanders.
year? Whatever. Commanders. They'll be the Redskins to me forever. It doesn't matter what he does.
No, but it doesn't. They're not going to win the Super Bowl, so that doesn't matter.
We speak hypothetically. That's what we do.
Well, then if you're speaking hypothetically, then yes, it matters if he sucks next year and doesn't win the Super Bowl. Hypothetically, yes.
Jaden Daniels is going to win a Super Bowl.
So is Caleb Williams.
He might win it with where he's at.
And you guys,
Okay, let's rank rookie quarterbacks.
Real
this
quick,
season.
General Manager John, how did the Bears pass on Joe Alt? I want to know how the Bears passed on Joe Alt. I want to know where the Bears had an opportunity to get Joe Alt. Even if they traded back to 3, they weren't drafting Joe Alt. They were drafting a quarterback that wasn't Caleb Williams. So where did the Bears pass up on Joe Alt? That never happened. That's a fallacy. I've heard people say that before.
Fields
happened.
Fields was already off the team during the draft.
Yeah. That
you didn't have a quarterback.
You had no shot at Joe Alt. Joe Alt was never going to be a Chicago Bear. That could not have happened in any. There's no scenario which Joe Alt could have been.
No, there's a scenario. Justin Fields was retained. Justin Fields was retained as the quarterback. Was the only.
And you took Joe Alt number 1. Yeah,
that was the only. Well, you could have traded back.
If we can get this out there,
you weren't getting a haul, but you could have traded back for an extra pick or 2.
For General Manager John, I was a huge, and Kyle can contest to this, a huge fan of Jaden Daniels coming into the league. I loved Jaden Daniels.
All four of us, 4 stars.
The guy was
We're big fans of Jaden Daniels. I told Kyle a couple months before he was going to win a Heisman. He played better than everybody else at the end of last season in that college football year. But
yeah, this is the problem. I'm going to say this one more time, and please listen, guys. Small sample, you guys. When RG3 got to the NFL, he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. He was amazing. He was awesome. He was the best. He was phenomenal. He was great. Mitch Trubisky went to the Pro Bowl his rookie season, or his first full season playing quarterback in the NFL. He went to a Pro Bowl. You can't take 2 games of a guy getting 200 yards receiving. Anthony Miller for the Chicago Bears had a game against the Lions where he had 167 yards and 3 touchdowns.
I think it's fair to say Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, and Caleb Williams. I think it's fair to say that Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, and Caleb Williams, the trajectory is looking up.
Yes, I agree.
These players can only get better from here. Stroud
here's
has
our
regressed.
Numbers, guys.
Stroud has regressed, so there's a chance they regress. But
yes,
these are our numbers.
There's a big chance. There's a big chance they regress, Brian. Huge.
And I want to stress this on Drake May, excuse me, because I do realize maybe some people forget. I don't think he started to the 4th or 5th game of the year, so these numbers are a little skewed.
5th. I thought it was like 6th or 7th, man.
It was something like that. I don't remember. I think he's played 11 games. So I think he's played 11 games. What week are we in? He's played 11 or 12 games. I can't remember off the top of my head. So his numbers are a little bit lower, but I'm going to tell you, he looks really freaking good, man.
And let me remind the Jaden Daniels fans out there of a game.
11 or 12. I don't know about, man. We just played our 14th game, didn't we?
You guys,
15.
You guys tell me if you remember this.
I'm going to look right now.
Tell me if you remember this, guys. Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels faced off this season in Washington, in Jaden Daniels' house, right? You remember this game? The Bears were losing all game. Caleb Williams mounted a game-winning drive, led the Bears down the field. They scored a touchdown and took the lead. Can you tell me how, in what way, shape, or form, it's Caleb Williams' fault that the Bears allowed a 50-yard Hail Mary for the Washington Commanders to win the game? And
I'm not blaming it on him.
let me remind you, that Jaden Daniels Hail Mary, that fell short of the end zone. It just got knocked up into the air and back into the end zone.
I think
but that actually landed
are
about the
good.
3-yard line.
Here,
Zach says
I'm not blaming.
Jaden Daniels will have trouble staying healthy. Most likely,
Here,
if he keeps playing the
listen.
way he's playing.
Everyone keeps saying that about him, but go look at Lamar Jackson's size and his size. They're about the same. He's a little bit taller. And
No,
everyone keeps saying he's a small quarterback.
Lamar Jackson's a lot heavier, so he's like 30 pounds on him. He's got 30 pounds on Jaden. That's huge. Jaden Daniels is 6'4", 200 pounds. That's a very skinny man. He's a very, very skinny man in the NFL.
They're
very
really
skinny.
pro. I'm looking it up right now.
And I don't know why you're making that comparison anyways. Lamar Jackson spent a lot of time injured in his career. So
Well, not only that, but he's a
it
more
was
elusive
He's
runner.
also going to be a possible 3-time MVP.
He's a more
it will
elusive runner
likely-
than Jaden Daniels.
it will
He's a more
likely
elusive
occur.
runner than Jaden Daniels.
Sean, Jaden
Lamar
Daniels
Jackson
will
never really gets hit
probably-
hard.
You can't sustain if Jaden Daniels continues to play that way. He will miss some football.
Oh,
This is
sure.
how it goes.
Sure.
Lamar Jackson missed some football. Justin Fields missed football. Those guys miss time.
Yeah, Cam Newton. Yeah, Michael Vick. Yeah, they all do. Those running quarterbacks all miss time. Yes, that's part of their game.
And to think that the guy who's probably the thinnest of all of them will miss some time is not far fetched.
Yeah, that's not
Zach
far
has a good
Kyle.
point.
Very good.
History would
Jackson-
say that Jaden Daniels will miss a lot of football time.
Yeah,
A lot of
Lamar
football.
Jackson is 6'2", 205. Jaden Daniels is 6'4", 210. They
Yeah,
are.
so Sean, he's got
He's
2 more
huge.
inches. He's got 2 more inches on him, and he weighs the same amount.
All right. Lamar
I mean,
Jackson.
is-
Lamar Jackson, to me, watching him on a football field is a skinny little shit.
Vernon,
I'm
if
sorry.
you're the same,
But
you're 2 inches
Sean,
taller than somebody, the same weight, then you're thinner, correct?
Injured a lot.
That's because he used to get hit. If you're watching him this year, he's learned. He's not taking the abuse that he used to. Maybe that's because Derrick Henry's here, but also when he runs, he's sliding. He's starting to take the Jalen Hurts route. Run to the outside. Don't get hit. He's learned. He's evolved. You guys saying that Jaden Daniels can't learn and evolve is just a stupid statement to make. The guy can learn how to not take hits and not get hit.
I never once said Jaden Daniels can't learn and
You
evolve.
just said
I've
he's
never
gonna
said that in my
get
entire life.
he's gonna run too much. He's gonna get hurt. He's gonna be injured because
Sean,
he
is
does
he gonna
this.
get hurt? Is he gonna get hurt?
I
Is
know
Jaden Daniels gonna get
every
hurt?
NFL player gets hurt. Give me an NFL player that hasn't got hurt in his
Are
career.
players who run more susceptible to getting hurt than players who don't?
Yeah, running backs get hurt all
Okay,
the
well
time.
then that's what he's
Running
saying.
backs
Jaden
get hurt
Daniels,
all the time.
Sean,
Yes.
So do quarterbacks that
Lamar
sit in the
Jackson.
pocket.
Sean, Lamar Jackson has only
he can
played
learn. He
one
can
full
adapt.
season.
He's not going to sit in the pocket forever.
Lamar Jackson has only played one full season in his career. So you're correct. They're very similar players, which would mean that Jaden Daniels will likely suffer injury in his
He
career.
already has. You guys,
Sure.
he tore cartilage between his ribs this year. He's already torn
Against the
cartilage
Bears.
between his ribs.
Against the Bears.
No, he came
No,
into the
no,
Bears game.
I think he
No,
came
he
in.
came into the Bears.
Yeah, it was the week
Caleb
before.
Williams has not had any injuries like that this year.
But
Not so
we
far.
hope that Jaden Daniels doesn't get injured.
Yeah,
We hope he has
he's
a
good for the
long,
NFL.
healthy career.
I like Jaden.
Jack,
But
I agree with
I
you
will say this.
100%.
I will say this. Caleb Williams is not a player that you figure out as a defense. You know what I mean? Jaden Daniels' game
Trey, I agree with you too.
can be contained in one way or another. Like, can you prevent the guy from getting out of the pocket? Can you force him to throw? Or can you prevent him from throwing and make him run? Whatever it is you think your defense will exploit. Caleb Williams is just a guy who understands.
Yeah, and General Manager
defense
John, he had the game-winning
and
drive.
zones
Should
and
Bears should have won
man.
that game. Bears should have won that game. If you disagree with that, you don't know football. The Bears should have won that game. There's a Hail Mary like that happens once every 25 years. Bears should have won that game because of Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams put together a
Hail
game-winning
Mary like
drive
that
to keep
never
the score in the fourth quarter with 25 seconds left. He gave the Bears the lead with
I
25
don't-
seconds left.
Chris Foster, I don't believe this is a realistic trade, and I don't think New England was.
Yeah, I
was
mean,
gonna
Sean,
be
you
there.
guys, yeah, Chris, we're all about like hypothetical situations, but
I don't think
to
that
go,
was a real
they could have
deal.
made these 2 trades and then traded back 6 times and then traded forward and then got next year's pick. And that's just, I mean, that's too far. You're being a general manager that would never actually exist in real football. Like that doesn't happen.
I
They
don't
trade
think that we
16 times
drafted
in
the
the
wrong
draft.
quarterback. I think that players, General Manager John, I don't think we drafted the wrong quarterback. I think all players develop at a different rate. And I don't think that Caleb Williams is developing terribly. He could possibly be doing a lot better if he had some competent coaching staff, some better.
Yes. And Sean, this is my point right here. General Manager John is the people I'm talking about. That's a very day-to-day thought process. That's not year to year. For him to come out and say that we drafted the wrong QB after 15 games in the NFL is absolutely asinine. That means you just don't watch sports.
I mean,
You think
really,
that after 15 games, Sean, what did you say about Josh Allen when we got on the show? How many Bills fans were calling for Josh Allen's head after 30 games?
You can Google it. You can Google it.
This guy off the team.
Well, you don't even have to. You don't even have to.
Player in football. He's
You don't even have to look. You don't even have to look that far. Compare Justin Fields' rookie stats to Caleb Williams' rookie stats, because people are comparing Justin Fields' last year's statistics to Caleb now, and it doesn't make sense. You have to compare them as rookies.
Thank you. That's
and right now, Caleb Williams looks. If you base a player's potential for the tenure of their career on their rookie season, if that's what you're basing it, if a player finishes their rookie year and you decide this player is probably going to be good or probably not your guy, right? Like after Will Levis's rookie season, we were like, yeah, you know what I mean? We're all, you're coming into this season like Titans fans are thinking like this is a problem. This guy's a problem. Caleb Williams going into next season to me will be one of the things I'm most excited about.
I agree.
Based off what I've watched this season, his rookie season. Guys, a rookie season is usually just a sample size of what a player can do if a coach can dig into the potential that's there, right? So Caleb Williams can build off what he's been already, and he's been the best thing Chicago's ever had. So Caleb Williams can be one of the best in this league, which would make him there's in a whole different league than all of the quarterbacks that have played in Chicago.
Should I feed into the haters at all, guys?
Yeah, Brennan, let's talk about Sam Darnold. Let's talk about Geno Smith. Let's talk about all the quarterbacks that were written off the first year they played in the NFL. All the quarterbacks in NFL history.
Well, Caleb's been better than those guys.
We're done with him.
And Caleb's better than those guys.
100%. Caleb's ceiling is higher than Jaden Daniels.
But his rookie year
is higher than
better
Drake
than
May.
those guys.
It's higher than Bo Nix. What Caleb can do on off-schedule plays, like Sean said, arm angles, throwing across the field, throwing on the move, throwing on the run. What he can do, if they can maximize his potential, his ceiling is higher than Jaden Daniels, Drake May, or Bo Nix. He's still, even after 15 games in the NFL, Caleb Williams still has the highest ceiling of all the quarterbacks drafted this year. That's not even a question. There's no doubt about it. You could ask any offensive-minded football, I bet you they tell you the same thing. What his God-given talent, what Caleb Williams is capable of doing on off-schedule throws, so when things don't go well and the play breaks down, what he can do, like what Patrick Mahomes does in Super Bowls when he's about to get sacked and it ends up being a 50-yard touchdown to Tyreek Hill, Caleb Williams still has the highest ceiling of any quarterback in this draft. Not even a question. It's not a question.
Well, and to go back to this, General Manager John, I don't know if you were on. We touched about this earlier. When you go back to that last year of USC, there was no professional football players on that football team. He was pretty much doing it by himself. So
it's funny that they always say end his last year. Well, how come nobody wants to talk about Caleb Williams' year at USC the year before when he won the Heisman Trophy? Nobody wants to.
There we go. He faced Rice, Stanford, Fresno State, Oregon State, Arizona State, Washington State. Hey, man, you can only play the players that are put in front of you.
I'm not going to apologize for that. You don't apologize for teams that are put in front of you and you play. That's who he has to play. All he can do is play the schedule they ask him to play. It's like he should have purposely played bad because the teams we were playing were subpar. Like,
well,
no,
in regards to numbers, right? If Caleb Williams' numbers haven't impressed you, your expectations were the problem.
Yeah.
Because a rookie quarterback, no matter if he's the first overall pick, if he paints his nails, if his cell phone's pink, if
here's his numbers on the yearbook. Oops.
If your girl likes it or doesn't, Caleb Williams is a rookie quarterback in the hardest league to play in this sport, at the hardest position in maybe all of sports.
Yeah, in American sports.
And
it's the hardest position in American sports.
He's getting his ass kicked. It's not like he's staying upright. And he's protecting the football. and he's going to finish with around 3,600 yards and 22 touchdowns. And I'm going to leave him at the 5 interception mark.
Right, it's going to be over
honest.
3,500 yards. If he throws for 250 yards in the next game, he's at 500 yards, 3,500 yards.
Okay, so he's going to be around 3,700 yards, right?
He might get
set that record.
touchdowns.
He might set that
might
record.
get that record.
He might set that
You know
record.
what? In a season of all this disappointment, Brandon, let's just go for it. Let's get that record. 38-38. Come on, let's go.
You guys, we should do a yardage countdown for every pass he throws. We should be like, all right, now it's 480.
Well,
All
we
right,
should count
471.
the attempts. We should count the attempts without an interception going up.
Yeah, both. Just we
He's
can count all the
77
amazing. We can
and-
just count
and you know
all the
what? You know
amazing
what I
things
read
Caleb
today?
Williams is
You know what I
doing.
read today? He's 77 attempts away from breaking the all-time attempts without an interception record. And
Yeah.
they said but with 2 games left, he'll probably run out of time. What do you mean? If he starts next year, it picks up. You know what I mean? I'm serious. In regards to how they record records, it still picks up.
No, I think 402
doesn't
from Rodgers is
doesn't
the single
reset.
season record. I think that's the
No, it's
single
not.
season record.
402 is not. It's the active. It's just the longest active
It's
streak.
the active record. This is the active streak.
But it
right
says
here.
he did it in 2018. It says 2018.
Longest
It doesn't
probably
say
when he broke it.
2018-19.
It's got nothing to do with the season.
Yeah, it's just when he broke.
Because look, Tom Brady from 10 to 11.
Yes.
Jared Goff.
So Aaron Rodgers is the single season record. Yes,
Yeah.
that's the single season record.
Yeah, but he's also the record in general.
And Zach, I don't think he's going to get the 4,000 this year, but I wouldn't put him past him next year. If he throws
Zach, we're talking about beating the Bears single season record, which is 3,838 yards by Eric Kramer. That's what we're talking about. He needs 284 yards per game in the next 2 games to set the Bears single season record for the most passing yards in Bears history since 1926, and he's a rookie.
No, Zach.
Yeah.
Zach's a big supporter of Caleb Williams, and
I know.
Zach is.
I think he's saying if he can get 38-38, why can't he get 4,000?
Hey Zach, I'm with you. Let's
that's
go
a
for
full
4,000. Let's go. Come on.
Let's get 38 touchdowns. He's at 22.
What if he threw 4,000 yards and 25 touchdowns and 5 picks? That would be historical.
I mean, there's you guys. We could sit here and talk about the Bears. Obviously, we agree on a lot of stuff. We disagree on a lot of stuff. Do any of us disagree that Caleb Williams is the least of our worries when it comes to
Least of my worries?
The least of my worries.
Not only
I don't worry
do
about
think,
Caleb Williams.
Kyle. Not only do I think that, I think if
I like
there's
that, John.
if a really good head coaching candidate takes the Bears job, it's because Caleb Williams is the quarterback. That's what I believe.
And
I
really
believe,
quick,
I believe. Hold on. I believe if Caleb Williams wasn't right, if Tyson Bagent's your quarterback, and you're pitching this job to a Ben Johnson, no chance in hell. No chance, because you don't have the first pick in the draft, right? So Johnson's not getting his guy. He's not getting Cam Ward. So I think you're going to finish 9th in the draft. You're going to get the 4th best quarterback in the draft. Why would Ben Johnson take this job?
Well, it wouldn't hurt for the Panthers to continue to lose. They got to stop winning football.
draft order in the NFL, and the Bears are sitting at number 9.
Yeah,
It's gonna be tough to move up, man. Jets, Carolina, Vegas. I mean, all these teams have to win 2 games. I mean, the Bears might be just stuck at that 9th slot, dude.
No, they could go. They could go up to 7th. What are you talking about? They can go up to 6th.
You think Carolina, the Jets, and so Vegas has to win 2 games. They said today that the Bears don't hold a tiebreaker against any of these teams. They would have to have Vegas would have to win 5 games in order for the Bears to jump them. If they finish at 4, or if they both finish the same records, Bears are staying where they are basically. I don't know how they figured it out.
Sean, they do that on strength of schedule.
There you go. Oh, there it is, right there on the side.
Doesn't New England play Jacksonville this week? So if New England won, they beat the Bears. Wouldn't they fall in front of the Bears in the draft?
Well, I believe Carolina plays the Saints, so that's
Carolina does play the Saints.
Yeah,
Carolina plays Tampa Bay. Carolina plays Tampa Bay.
Well, who else? They have 2 games left.
I'm gonna look right now. Give me 1 second.
If they play the Saints, there's a very good chance that Carolina could win that football game. The Saints are atrocious.
Let's see. Carolina finishes with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons.
Well, they could beat Atlanta.
They could beat Atlanta. They could beat Atlanta. Really quick, are we all in agreement with Vegas after this week that not the MVP, the rookie of the year is Jaden Daniels?
Yeah, I don't think there's much you could do to lose it at this point.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels.
I want to say this, guys. I think if I don't base what a player could possibly be, like I don't base Caleb's potential on the record the Bears have right now, but I want to say Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels have had better seasons respectively.
Sure.
Because their teams are winning football games.
Yeah, I agree.
So Caleb is probably third right now in quarterbacks, and then Brock Bowers is having a season probably comparable to Jaden Daniels at the position, right? I mean, so Brock Bowers might even be second on that list.
Here,
So I think, and then Neighbors has fallen a little bit. He had a pretty lackluster game last week, but I think Caleb's probably third or fourth.
Yo, Jerry Azuma's checking in. What's going on, Zoom?
What's up, Jerry? How you doing, brother?
Appreciate you
Man,
checking in
appreciate
on
you.
us.
Merry Christmas, man.
Merry Christmas, absolutely. Let's give him the long round of applause.
Merry Christmas, Jerry. Jerry Christmas.
Jerry Christmas. Greatly appreciate you checking in.
Brandon, what you said right there, Brandon, was perfectly said. I mean, I refuse to judge Caleb Williams off. Oh, I think that might be. I refuse to judge Caleb Williams based off the Bears win-loss total because I've said this before and I'll say it again. And people could disagree with me, Chris. I'm sure you're going to disagree. I'm sure General Manager John's going to disagree. Matt Eberflus is solely responsible for 5 losses this season. Like I said, the Washington game is a perfect example. The fact that Caleb Williams was asked to take this team down the field, score a touchdown, giving them the Washington Commanders 25 seconds left to win the game, and he did it. He did exactly what Bears fans and ownership and management and coaches wanted and players wanted him to do. He did it, and the Bears found a way to screw it up because that's what the Chicago Bears do. That's what Matt Eberflus did when he was here. He's done it time and time again. There were 6 games, guys, 6 games we can talk about, 6 in which the Bears had a 90% chance or better to win, and they lost all 6. Do you know the odds were 1 in 68 million of losing all 6 of those games? You want to tell me that's on Caleb Williams, or do you think that the Bears had a bad coaching staff in place?
Well, really quick,
yes, that is on Ryan Poles.
Really quick, I wanted to throw something out there on this Rookie of the Year race. It's going to be a very unpopular opinion. Kyle, you might even know where I'm going with this. I understand the season that Jaden Daniels is having. It's been sensational. It's kind of been replicated maybe by C.J. Stroud last year, so it's not the first time that we've seen it from a rookie quarterback. My personal Rookie of the Year, the NFL will never, ever do this because it's a tight end, but my Rookie of the Year is Brock Bowers. It really is. He is having an historical. He's doing something no tight end has ever done in the history of the NFL. He has a chance to break every tight end record as a rookie. He's on pace for 1,400 receiving yards.
What team does he play for? What team is he doing?
The Raiders.
The Raiders.
Aiden O'Connell.
The Raiders. With Aiden O'Connell.
And Gardner Minshew, I think.
Gardner Minshew. And Brock Bowers is breaking every record in the history of tight ends with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell throwing him the football.
Brian Thomas is having a really good season too.
So that
Brian Thomas is having a phenomenal
Jerry
season.
Zuma, it was Trax.
It was Trax. I saw that a little bit ago. Trax is playing Christmas games. No, but Brandon, you called it at the beginning of the year. Brian Thomas has done nothing but been a gem for them down in Jacksonville. Congratulations.
Brian Thomas tried to get Burned in his bet yesterday. It was just he couldn't get. Who'd you have as your last? Mike Evans. Yeah,
Mike Evans.
Yeah, that's rough.
So, Chris, the one thing I will tell you,
Josh Allen couldn't get 200 yards collectively.
Well, Kyle's sitting here on the panel. Really quick, we'll get back to Josh Allen in a second.
Did he break his hand, Sean?
No, he hit his elbow. He hit his elbow, his funny bone. I wanted Brock Bowers instead of Roma Dunze. I think Roma Dunze, I've said this before, I think Roma Dunze is going to be a very fine receiver for the Chicago Bears. I would have loved Roma Dunze or Brock Bowers like nobody's business. I was praying they were going to surprise everybody and take him, and they went with Rome. But I think everybody in Chicago would have been ecstatic if Brock Bowers was here instead of Roma Dunze. But that's just me talking.
Well, yeah. So when you get to players who are all really good players, you got to start asking yourself, which one?
Hold on 1 second. All right, Trax, you get one.
Which one of these players are special, and which one of these players are just really good players? And Brock Bowers is clearly special. I'm not saying Roma Dunze is not. That remains to be seen. I'd like to see Roma Dunze with more playing time and a more competent head coach or coaching staff in general. But it's no question right now, guys, at all, right? I think we all agree that Brock Bowers is going to be a very special player in the NFL. If he continues to do what he's doing, he is going to break every tight end record Tony Gonzalez ever set, Rob Gronkowski ever set, Travis Kelce ever set. He's going to break every record every tight end has ever set, and he's going to be the best tight end of all time. And not only that, but Brock Bowers isn't really a tight end. I mean, he can really do whatever you want him to do. Whatever you ask Brock Bowers to do, he'll do it, and he can do it. He's a team player, man.
Yeah, dude, he is, and you know what? The thing I respect about the Raiders is, and it's crazy to think about this. The year before they drafted Michael Mayer, man, and they were like, you know what? We got this tight end, but we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna go grab this guy because he's not just a tight end. He's one of these hybrid players. The guy had 193 rushing yards in college. He averaged 10 yards a carry. And had freaking 5 rushing touchdowns. I mean, there's nothing this guy can't do with the football. The Raiders, unfortunately, he ended up in Los Angeles for the love of Christ, or in Vegas for the love of Christ.
The Raiders. Yeah, it sucks for him, man, because if Brock Bowers is on like a really good football team with a really good head coach, good quarterback, a lot of weapons to distract the attention away from him, he would be, oh my God, he would be absolutely unstoppable. He would be unstoppable.
I feel your tracks. I'm slowing down after coming off this brutal flu that I hope nobody in their world would get. Yes, and General Manager John, Brandon and I at the beginning of the year had this huge blowout about Brian Thomas versus Ladd McConkey. And you know what? I don't think either of them disappointed.
No, neither of us won.
Yeah, I think both of them are going to have fantastic.
And Ladd McConkey's the problem with Ladd McConkey is another one of those guys that he's so small. He's already dealt with injuries this year, and he's going to deal with those for the rest of the year. These little guys are just—it's tough to make it in the NFL when you're one of these little guys.
Those two have been the most impressive as rookies.
Yeah. No doubt.
Let's say this right now: Ladd McConkey and Brian Thomas have impressed more than Marvin Harrison and Roma Dunze. Malik Neighbors looks like he should be the best, but he's just never healthy. It seems like, I don't know.
Well, and he's also stuck.
The guy has just been. They thought about shutting him down 2 weeks ago. Do you guys remember that report?
Yeah.
Like, this guy is not doing good. He's not 100%, and he keeps playing football games. And I don't know if that's going to help. If you're the Giants, I am shutting him down.
I'm going to throw this out there, Brandon, because we did just say that McConkey and Thomas had better years than Dunze so far. Dunze's at like, I think 740 receiving yards right now for the season.
Yeah. He had a big game.
Oops, that's the wrong one. Where did it go? I got so much stuff in here today.
Naming these.
Here it is. So Roma Dunze has 752 uncatchable air yards this year. And I don't want to feed any of the haters in here, but these are uncatchable yard percentage for wide receivers in 2024. Roma Dunze is 1, DJ Moore is 4, Keenan Allen is 6.
Well, you're not feeding the haters much in regards to Caleb Williams because the next 2 receivers belong to
Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, I was going to say. And you got Demarcus Robinson down there who belongs to Matthew Stafford. So, I mean, yeah.
Well, you also have, I think Amari Cooper, most of his yards came when he was on Cleveland, not on Buffalo, if we're going to be fair there.
Yeah, but it hasn't been good in Buffalo. It's not.
Well, he hasn't played for Buffalo. He played 1 game and missed 3.
Well, he dropped
back for 2. He hasn't done anything.
He dropped a very crucial pass on Sunday. I can tell you that.
Here, I'll tell you this. Watching the Bills on Sunday, and I'm taking this away from Josh Allen and what he said is, hey, we got to play these guys in 2 weeks when I'll put all our cards on the table. That defense better get healthy quick, because if you can't stop Drake May and you can't stop Stevenson and you can't stop Gibson, the Bills are going to have a lot of issues winning games because, unfortunately, as much as I love Josh Allen, when the talent pool tightens up and these playmakers are not making plays, Josh Allen's going to run into a lot of problems.
When they play New England, they play New England in 2 weeks from now again.
Yes, and that's what Josh Allen said. He goes, "We played a very conservative game in Buffalo. We didn't want to put too much on the table, show them too much." I don't know if he's just buying in because they looked really, really awful, or they were just coming in off the hype of playing Detroit. You know, you always have that letdown. Whatever it was, it looked awful. It wasn't the Buffalo that we've
It
seen.
lost me my parlays, Sean. I'll say that.
Hey, you should have hit me up. I didn't bet anything in that game. I always worry about coming off of those big games, and then you play a shit team like New England, and you're just not all there because you spent all your energy. I believe in those things.
A divisional game, and New England's defense.
Yeah, and they're playing outside in the cold, man. It's different
Yep.
than playing in Detroit's dome, and that was exactly Vernon nailed it on that. That was a divisional game where New England's like, hey, you know what? We're not the best in the division, but we're not going to let you guys walk into the playoffs.
Their defense is getting better.
That's what it was.
Yep.
That's exactly.
Hey, and James Cook is a difference maker, but I lost the fantasy game. I lost my fantasy matchup yesterday because that 47-yard touchdown run, the clock was on 0 for over a second. The center still had the ball. I watched this play like 7 times. That 47-yard touchdown run should have been negated on a delay. I actually have a still photo of it. Ball on the ground, clock at 0. Josh Allen still waiting for it. Should have been a delayed game. Then you watch it. You see the clock go to 0. Should have been a delayed game, no touchdown, and I should be moving on to a championship. But once again, Timmy has a horseshoe. I'm planted up his freaking ass. Unbelievable turn of events.
Christian Gonzalez is a really good football player.
He is. He is.
Really, really good football player. The Patriots do have some quality players on their defense.
Can I talk about Dave Canellis? Because Dave Canellis, this is Geno Smith to Baker Mayfield to Bryce Young. We'll see what Bryce Young brings next year. But this guy might be a certified quarterback guru, man. That's all I got to say. Everyone gave it to Shane Waldron. I'm starting to learn in Seattle that was more Dave Canellis than it was Shane Waldron. That's
well, it definitely wasn't Shane Waldron. I don't know who it was, but I can tell you it wasn't Shane Waldron.
All I'm saying is y'all better watch out, man, because if Dave Canellis can do how he resurrected these last two, if he does that with Bryce Young, we may be looking at another short hero like Drew Brees with Bryce Young. Bryce Young looks really, really good, man. Like since that benching, he has looked like a very solid quarterback, man, in the NFL. That's just me, man. You guys tell me what you see.
Very solid. Do I think Bryce Young's ever win a Super Bowl, Sean? No, I don't. I don't think he's the right guy. I think Dave Canellis wants a new quarterback in Carolina. I think when he took that team, that's probably a conversation they had, that if Bryce Young is not capable of winning football games, we'll get you a new quarterback. I'm assuming that's what they're going to do at some point, probably pretty soon. If not this year, probably next. But I don't hate Bryce Young. I just don't think it's practical.
What if he won the last two?
Like I said, small sample. What have you done for me lately? Thought process.
I want to see what he does next year.
NFL.
With a whole year, Dave Canellis, an offseason with Dave Canellis, and he comes back next year. And here I was just talking about Buffalo, and I just want to. I found this week, and it made me a little bit more worried about Buffalo. Per next gen stats and StatMuse, the Ravens rank number 1 in wide receiver per pass play attempts. The Bills rank near the bottom, meaning Lamar has a better collection of wide receivers and tight ends to throw to. His target windows are much larger than Allen's. Allen, given the numbers, have average separation versus his opponents. I'm not saying that this is an outlier, but I'm saying that the Bills might be in some trouble because these are outliers that land you in trouble in January. And seeing Khalil Shakur drop that touchdown that was in his hands against tight coverage, those are things you just can't have. I don't know, man. I really felt like they were.
And at the end of the day, Buffalo won the game, and that's all that. I mean, listen, you could ask any team in the NFL, hey, do you want to play Josh Allen in the playoffs? Not one of them is going to answer yes. Josh Allen is the most dangerous player in football. It doesn't
with
have
you.
to. It doesn't have
I'm
to
with
look
you.
pretty for the Buffalo Bills to win games. I mean, first of all, he's guaranteed 40 to 50 rush yards every single game, and you can't stop it because everybody knows he's going to do it, and he still does it every
Guys,
game.
real quick, we do have some Wednesday football games. The Bears obviously play Thursday night against Seattle's in Chicago, but the Kansas City Chiefs are going to Pittsburgh, guys. Kansas City's favored in this game by 3 points. What do you guys like in that football game?
Say that it's Kansas City and Pittsburgh.
In
Well,
Pittsburgh.
if Russell Wilson plays
Kansas
like he did
City's
last week,
favored in Pittsburgh.
if Russell Wilson plays like he did last week, I like Kansas City for sure, no doubt about it. I mean, it looks like without George Pickens, Russell Wilson looks lost, man. It looks like he. does
Hey,
not have anywhere
real
to throw the
quick,
ball.
Zach, I understand what you're saying.
That might be a
numbers
bet
don't
there.
look
Taking
good.
Pittsburgh at home.
Hold on one second, Brandon. I know what you're saying. The numbers don't look spectacular. He's not throwing for 400 yards, but he's making plays. He's making smarter decisions.
No, Sean,
He's not turning the ball
Sean,
over.
you're right. Canellis is getting the most out of
Right.
Bryce Young. I just
Right.
don't think Bryce Young is very good. So the most is not very high. It's not a very
Sure.
high ceiling you're going to get.
No,
when
I'm
you
just
get
responding.
Bryce
I'm
Young.
just responding to Zach
Yeah.
because he said, "Look at his stats the last few weeks. He's playing smarter football. He's processing
Yes.
the game better.
He looks
He's
a lot
taking
better than he
off
did
out of the
last year.
pocket. Yes,
Yeah, it looks
he's
like
a lot better than last year. Last year, it
can
looked
do-
like he wasn't going to make it.
You can't ask Dave Canellis to make something out of what is not there, but what you can ask him is to improve, and he's done
Correct.
that. Dave Canellis has
Correct.
made Bryce Young improve, but I think Dave Canellis is a very good football coach.
Yes.
I just think he had the unfortunate luck of landing on a team with Bryce Young at quarterback. I don't think Bryce Young is going to be
and Kyle?
a very good quarterback in the NFL.
I don't remember if you saying this, but when I was screaming for Eberflus to be fired, that was the guy I wanted, David Canellis.
I would have been fine
Yes.
with that. That would have been
That was the guy I wanted, big time.
Brennan, has your
Here,
future coach decision changed? Do you still want Mike Vrabel?
I do, man. I see something in Ben Johnson that concerns me when I watch him speak. I don't see the disciplinarian type. I don't see the guy that's willing to face confrontation, like Tyreek Stevenson, when he's a problem. I don't see that guy. I like Mike Vrabel. Ben Johnson becomes the head coach. I won't be disappointed, but the defensive coordinator better be somebody who's all about accountability. Honest to God, man. Like,
On that, before we put a bow on this thing,
what
this
would you
is
guys do? You guys think there's a possibility Antoine Randall would be the offensive coordinator for Ben Johnson?
Well, maybe.
Why do you ask that? Is he on Detroit right now?
Yeah, he's their wide receivers coach, and he's always going nuts on the sideline. When Jameson
He was the one
Williams caught
chasing down the field.
When Jameson Williams caught that touchdown, he was like dancing on the freaking sideline. But
I don't know. I mean,
he's also when players on offense screw up, man, he's constantly. You ever see the video? It's called the dad finger. He like goes up to players and like gives them like a talking to. Like he's a boss on that team, man.
well, I can tell you this: when Jameson Williams threw the ball at Tyreek Stevenson again for the second game in as many games, and when the ref walked up to Dan Campbell and told him what happened, if you watch Dan Campbell's mouth, he goes, "JMO," and then he calls Jameson over there and he destroys him.
Always
Destroys him. Absolutely destroys him.
Canellis, another Thomas Brown? No, he's not. Far from it. Far from it. Far from it. Far from it. Dave Canellis is borderline coming to a genius. Some things that I found on Ben Johnson, since we're still debating this, he spent 4 years at UNC as a quarterback. He received his bachelor's in math and computer science. He holds a rare achievement for a perfect score on a Mathematical Association of America's test. Many Ivy League schools wanted him for his mind, but he wanted to play football, so he decided to walk on to UNC. He would spend evenings tutoring his football teammates in math. When his time at UNC was when his time was up at UFC, he was offered a job as a software development guy. However, he wanted to play football. In 2007, Tar Heels quarterback Connor Barth was asked who was the first to arrive and the last to leave. His answer was quarterback number 2, Ben Johnson. He has 4 years of offensive player coordinator experience. And obviously, the last 3 years, his offenses are 5-5 and headed towards 1. So just some interesting facts. I mean, the guy's pretty gosh darn smart, apparently. So he knows how to break down the game. I mean, I like smart people.
Yeah,
And
but remember, Matt Patricia went to school for rocket science, and he was one of the worst coaches in the history of football. So,
well, you know what smart people do generally?
collection.
They surround themselves with smarter people.
Yeah,
So
but Vernon's right. You hope that one of the guys he surrounds himself with is just a giant asshole. That when people do stupid shit, he calls them to the sideline and is like, "Go take a shower. You're done."
I'm trying. I couldn't find it online. I'm trying to find who his assistant is because he has an assistant offensive coordinator.
Yeah, Sean, you know who it is.
It's Jesus Morrison. It's came over from it's slipping my mind. I wanted him to be the Bears offensive coordinator. We just talked about him. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's the guy who's been with Ben Johnson for a few years
Yeah,
now.
he's been with Ben Johnson.
He's like tied to his hip.
Yeah,
That would
and
be his
I think he
offensive
would come
coordinator.
here.
That would be your OC.
Yeah,
That's
but Ben
exactly
Johnson
what I
would be
said.
Ben Johnson would be a
Justin-
play calling offensive coordinator or a head coach.
Dustin shot
I
me
know.
down on it. Dustin shot me down on it. He told me he didn't want that guy. His name is gosh darn it. God. I wrote a piece on him the other day.
Sean, as you're looking that up, anything else you guys want to get to, man, before we get out of here?
I think that's about it.
Yeah.
So that wraps it up.
Yeah, we got
Well, you guys, there's a lot to be determined in the future here. The Bears head coach is Ryan Poles going to be here next year. Can the Bears nail this draft, nail this free agency class? A lot remains to be seen. Obviously, Bears fans need to start looking towards the future. This season is officially over. The Bears have now lost 9 games straight. They're 4-11. One of the worst teams in football. They're going to finish with a top 10 draft pick again, no doubt in my mind. The Bears are going to get a top 10 draft pick this year. You hope that they go find their left tackle or guard of the future, like that Quentin Nelson type guard or Joe Alt type left tackle. If not, they're going to have to find something in free agency. Ultimately, that's going to fall on the shoulders of Ryan Poles. I do think this team is pretty close to competing for a playoff spot. I don't think they're Super Bowl bound anytime soon, but like I said, we're talking about more multi-billion-dollar organization with 53 players in the roster. Flipping it completely from start to finish is a very, very long, tough process. Like I said, I think Ryan Pace has 3 remaining players on this team. I think the Bears are headed in the right direction. I think finally found a quarterback. That's something we've never been able to say in our lifetime. I don't know about, unless you guys correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember the last time I was excited about a Bears quarterback going into the next season. That's what, like Brandon said, that's what I'm most excited about going into next year is the progression and growth of Caleb Williams. I think this team is in a better spot than it's been in for a long time. I know it's hard to say when everything looks so grim and so bad and they've lost so much such recent weeks, but ultimately I do think the Bears are in a good spot and could compete for the NFC North next year, but that remains to be seen. Well, maybe the Bears will screw it up like always. We don't know.
Really quick, Kyle, that was the offensive assistant, Kevin O'Connell's offensive assistant I wanted. Ben Johnson does not have one. That was Wes Phillips. He came over from Los Angeles with Kevin O'Connell. No, it wasn't Detroit.
Is he their offensive coordinator, Wes Phillips?
Wes Phillips is their offensive coordinator, correct?
Yeah, well, then you can't hire him because he's not going to make a lateral move. Correct. Unless you hired him as your head coach. He's not going to make
I actually asked Dustin about being the head coach. I asked him about being the head coach. So, yeah.
I don't know much about him, so I can't sit here and say I like him or I don't. I mean, I do think the Vikings do have a lot of success, so obviously you want a guy who's had success in the past. Everybody, Vernon Trax Hyatt, Zach
Mike
Lipsy,
Voss,
General Manager John,
Chris Foster,
Breaking News Bruce, Scott Angel. We appreciate all you guys, man. We appreciate the comments.
Ferguson was in here.
We hope you guys all have a phenomenal, amazing Christmas. Enjoy time with your family. Enjoy the food.
Merry Christmas, guys.
I hope you get some good presents. We appreciate you guys, and we will see you probably what?
I don't know.
Brandon, you'll be on Thursday, right? Still, Sean, we're not going to be on Wednesday, right? I mean,
no, it's Christmas. My wife will
Christmas
kill my
Day.
ass.
Yeah, me too. Vernon and Justin will be here at the Bare Minimum podcast on Thursday.
You know what?
Thursday night football game, which is the Chicago Bears.
Kyle or Brandon, on my way home from River Street, I might just pop in on the Bare Minimum and be like, "Surprise, bitches!"
Yeah, we'll be covering the Bears game.
Absolutely. Yep. I might have a couple of cocktails in me, but I might just jump on that late night one. We'll see. Before we get
anything you want to get out there before we wrap up?
Shit, fuck Green Bay.
All right. Yeah. Right. Let's go.
Bear down, go Bears.
Thanks, River Street. Thanks, I do.
Yep.
Till next week, everybody. Love y'all. Peace and love. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, guys.